Athletics, bring the drums in. Hello, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome back to the ESL Rainbow Six Premiership, where we're plugged in for an absolutely bombastic day. It is going to be jam-packed, full of exhilarating games, and I'm joined by a fantastic team of commentators that will be helping me guide you through the action as well, Desertu and Gio.
Hey, buddy, how's it going? Bombastic is a wonderful word to
I was
use to
thinking the
describe
same thing.
Yes.
It's good, right? You know, it gets us in the mood.
Well.
I think it sets the tone for the sort of show we're going to have tonight on the Prem. I'd hope so anyway. I really would.
Yeah, you'd hope so. Given the games we've got coming up, I'm excited for that at the very least. We'll see if bombastic... In fact, I'll quiz you at the very end if bombastic is how you would use to describe the games you've seen. If not, then, well, we'll see.
Yeah, we'll know for next time.
I mean, it is the last day of the group stages, so you'd hope that it's going to be a pretty exciting day when it comes to the games that we're going to be seeing.
Oh, you definitely would imagine so. And exciting is a word to describe the games we saw yesterday as well. So why don't we refresh everyone's memories? And I'll start with you, Des. If you could just pick out some of the key moments that really stick out to you from yesterday's games.
Yeah, I think we summarised it pretty well at the end of the broadcast, to be fair. The replays on screen now kind of getting to the stage in this first game where it was all a crazy show at that point. For the first 4 rounds, it was 1-for-1 on rounds. Things were quite exciting. Going into the second one that you can see on the screen now as well, Kavana would just, well, Grizzly in particular, that was Grizzly's window. We said it yesterday. That's my window, and no one's getting it. He just sat there all game long and got so many kills off it. It was pretty beautiful. And the last game when we went onto it, which was on Consulate between Fierce and Randy's, that one was dominant but exciting. I think Gio was the one who said it came out looking really exciting, to be fair, between the two sides, although it was the most dominant of the games that we saw yesterday.
Yeah, like, it was the game that we expected to be the closest and the least dominant in terms of the scoreline, and actually we turned out to be completely wrong on that front. But I do still hold that it was the most exciting one to watch yesterday, even in spite of what ended up happening with the scoreline. We saw so many different types of compositions come out from Randy's, and I'm hoping we get to see a lot more of that variety again today.
Talking of variety, of course, we do have 7 absolutely fantastic teams in the league. And we do have a little bit more information about where people are starting to lie towards the end of the season now as well. As we know for a fact that Crazy are going to be dead first place with 6 wins, currently undefeated, looking to see if they can go 7-0 by the end of today. And Enclave, dead set last in 7th place, guys.
I think things sit as you pretty much would expect. If Secret were here, you'd put them probably in the top 3, although given how the start of their season went, maybe you wouldn't. But I think otherwise, the 7 teams that we've got here are falling into line the way that I think many of us would have expected at the start. Demise, Kavana, and Randy's are probably the 3 teams you'd look at and say, well, where do they sit in this mix? Like, any of them could be in any order there in 3rd to 5th place. But I think the way things have lined up really reflects how all these teams have played. Pleasantly surprised for Demise of all people because they came in as the 8th seed. They got that last chance qualifier spot. And in their game today, if they win, they take away that auto spot to go through to the finals next weekend.
Yeah, I think that's what makes the first series today going to be particularly exciting because they are, of course, going up against Fierce Esports. We saw them yesterday. They played exceptionally well and currently sitting in that 2nd place. The same win-draw-loss record for both these teams as well. So being able to see them scrap out for that guaranteed spot in the finals there, that's going to be pretty exciting.
Yeah, no, I think you've hit the nail on the head, right? Obviously, being our first game of the night, that's going to be a bit of a spicy boys, Fierce and Demise. Ooh, they are going to be fighting to see who goes to finals. Let's give you a little bit more information about how that works as well, as we do have our format graphic here, which will explain to everyone at home exactly why there's so much weight on tonight's games. As you can see, the playoffs that will be coming up later on are 3rd versus 6th and 4th versus 5th. So a lot to play for, isn't there?
There is, yeah, and Saturday is going to be the day for those to kick off and see how things really play through. But at the end of today, we will know who these teams are that are making it through. Wonderful bracket being shown here. And when it says lowest seed playoff winner, that's the team with the lowest seed out of all the 4 that come in. They will come up against Crazy. The one who comes in with the highest seed will come up against the 2nd place team. That team still being to be determined by that first game tonight in the form of Demise or Fierce.
Yeah, so I think basically even though there's only so much that can be done to change the seedings right now in today's games, these teams still know that they have a lot to play for. And so they're going to be trying to prove themselves. They're going to be trying to make sure that they are as dominating as possible. And most importantly, they want to be taking note of how their opponents are playing so that they can take that forward into the playoffs, even if they, don't make it into that guaranteed 2nd place spot.
That's true. Let's move on, though, and have a look at the schedule for today's upcoming games. Of course, our first game of the night is definitely the one we want to highlight. That is a hot match. The match to watch. Fierce taking on Demise is set to be a banger, a slobber knocker, if you will. Moving on from that, Crazy is, of course, going up versus Randy's. Can Crazy go undefeated? Will they have a flawless season? That is going to be the question on the tip of our tongues once we get there. And finally, to round us out, it will be Kavana versus Audacity.
I think the match to watch is definitely the one that everyone has got their eyes on. I think even as far back as in weeks 1 and 2, we were looking at the final week and saying, "Ooh, Fierce versus Demise." I think you fancy that one as one of the games to watch of the season. And it's just so fitting that it's come down to them both being on the same points, the same everything almost, except for a bit of map difference. The way it stacks up is this is going to be the game to define what the playoffs look like. The other two, a little more one-sided, dare I say. Crazy. You're looking at them, number 1 seed coming up against number 5. You're definitely giving the game in their favor. And that final game, although the seeds make it look very close between 4 and 6, I still think Kavana Gaming, formerly known as Burning Foxes, they have a pretty massive advantage going into this game as well.
I think the really exciting thing about this first game is that of all the teams that are currently in Prem, these are probably the 2 teams that you would expect to go the closest. Because most of these games that we've had so far this season, you can look at them and go, okay, that's the person who's going to win. It might be a bit close, but that's the person who's going to win. I think this one is genuinely probably going to be the hardest one to call. And as you say, Derry, the other two, they are going to be pretty fun to watch, but I think both of us will have a pretty clear idea of who we expect the winner to be. Crazy have been very dominating. Jackie, you said that they could go completely undefeated throughout the group stage. I think it's very likely to see that. And yes, Kavana, they've had their stumbling blocks, they've had their issues, but they've also done very, very well. And going up against Audacity, who sat pretty much at the bottom of the standings, I think it's probably going to be quite clear how that one turns out.
Oh, absolutely. And what a feat it would be, right, if Crazy are able to come through this season absolutely undefeated. Everyone would be invested going forward, and it would be quite a crazy affair. Something you guys can get involved with at home, though, if you'd like to delve in and play some Rainbow Six yourself. Of course, we do have the Open Cups. You can compete in those over at esl.im/R6UK. That's on PC and Xbox One. You might as well delve in and do a little bit of damage online. Gio, I know you'd get involved. Obviously, a bit of a head-popping machine yourself if you weren't commentating all the time.
Yeah, sure. Let's go with that.
You can also hit us up over on social, of course, as well. We're at ESL UK on absolutely everything. So please tell us what you want to see going forward and what you've enjoyed about the broadcast. It's hashtag ESL Prem. We want to see your thoughts. But moving on for today, let's start to get a little bit deeper and bust out our magnifying glasses for the first upcoming game. Fierce taking on Demise. Obviously, we've tried to highlight how important this is because the position of the 2 teams, the fact that it's about who is going to finals. Now, obviously, there seems to be a lot of fan favorites in the favor of Fierce, but what are you 2 currently thinking? Let's start to dissect this one.
I think it's fair to give it to Fierce coming into this. They're the team that have consistently sat around this second place spot. Demise coming in as the last place seed have now kind of clawed their way up there and have sat near the top. On paper, it's ridiculously close. Even looking down to the stats, 2 of the top players in the whole of the Premiership at the minute are Users and Tyrant from Demise and Fierce, respectively. They've got the 2 top KDs across a number of games. Shermie did creep in there yesterday, cheated a little bit with a really good performance in one game. But outside of that, I think with Users and Tyrant popping off their way they have, it's a very fair case that both of these teams are one to watch. Even above members of Crazy, they have stood up as the best players in the tournament so far.
I think that does put a lot of pressure onto Users because yes, he is sat at the top of the standings as to the player who's had the highest number of kills out of any team this season. He also has a KD of 2.1, which is pretty impressive. But when you have Shermie there supporting Tyrant, that does kind of mean that maybe there's this risk that you're going to have 2 really insane fraggers going up against 1, and that means Users is going to have to put in a lot more to hold his own. I think the other thing that we have to bear in mind is Demise have been, while impressive, there have been certain times where it's looked like they've sort of been banging their heads against the wall and they've been trying the same thing over and over, going from one round to the next and expecting something different to happen and it hasn't. So one thing I think we need to be seeing coming out of this team if they are to succeed in this map is they need to be more adaptable than they have been thus far, because on the attack, they've been pretty good. They're very thorough. They always look for, as much information as possible. They don't rush into anything, but when it comes to those defensive rounds, they can sometimes just miss out on some of the small changes that they could be making. So I think that's very important for this team.
See, something I'm curious about as well that I want to try and pick your brains on a little bit here, Des, is how much of an impact is it going to be without having Pat there, with the fact that he's been substituted out for Melons? Do you think this really could be quite a heavy-hitting factor in the game?
I think it can be. Melons is a great player in his own right, but I guess it comes down to what the team is most familiar with. They've played 4 games with Pat. They've only played 1 with Melons, so this will be that extra second game that they're going to be playing with him. And I think any team will tell you that making changes, it hurts. It's one of the reasons why we've seen Secret. We know that at the minute right now, they're looking behind the scenes at things that they can change around. It can really hurt if you start making changes, for example. And so for these guys, I worry that coming into today and making this change for Melons at a last second like this, it might take away the edge that they really could have had on their side to be able to bring down someone like Fierce. So fingers crossed at the very least that they've had a bit of prep time on this one. They've known at least a week in advance this was going to be the case. If not, this probably is going to be even easier for Fierce than maybe we first anticipated.
You could always argue that a similar thing would have happened with Shermie, and we did see him playing very, very well. So, of course, you never want to rule anything out, but yeah, there is always that factor where it's like, okay, you're not the guy that we've been playing with all this time. The synergy is not quite the same. How we've been preparing ourselves, and it's not just about the roles, the strict roles that you take in game, but it's the roles that you have in amongst each other. There's kind of interpersonal roles as well that can make all the difference. So, hopefully, for the side of Demise, it's not going to be that much of an issue, and we see Melons have a really good game.
Oh yeah, synergy is such an important factor, obviously, just based off player to player. It's something that could completely throw off the team dynamic. Hopefully it won't affect him too much, though, as this game is worth its weight in gold. Something that could potentially affect the outcome of it, though, is the veto. So why don't we start chipping away and try and figure out where exactly this game is going to take us.
I'm not going to lie, I've kind of cheated and I know where we're going, but I'm going to say nothing.
Don't spoil it. It's the movie magic.
I shan't say a word. Don't be worrying about that. No, honestly, though, between these two teams, looking at it, both are organised teams. Both have got very good gunners on it. You would probably weigh them to go in towards something quite strategical in a way. So I wouldn't expect to see a border come through. Demise, that is one of their favourite maps. Clubhouse is another of their favourite maps. If you're Fierce here, you look at Clubhouse and go, it's quite strategical. Maybe we do fancy our chances there. But border, I think you leave too much up to chance there when it comes down to gunning. So that gets taken away. Coastline, I would have expected to be taken away as well. That's kind of my rough thoughts on it.
Yeah, these two teams have both played quite different maps so far in the season. In fact, the only map that both of them have played is Consulate, and that's one of the auto bans. So it's about trying to find that balance and seeing what each team are good at. We actually spoke about this a little bit before we came on the broadcast. We were wondering whether Villa was going to be one that we would end up seeing, but we do know that that's a map that Fierce really like, and it's very unlikely that Demise will want to take them there. So it's sort of about trying to find the balance there, and I think for me, Clubhouse would probably be what I would have gone for as well, just because it does have that balance of fragging, but also like some strategy as well.
Well, we do have Coastline Bank being taken out as we start to fire our eye through. Let's see where this is going to shape up.
Thank you. Like I said, I kind of cheated because I already knew it was club anyway, so it's no surprise.
Yeah.
Spoiled it,
but it makes sense. Even on paper, it makes sense. It would have been Villa or Clubhouse. But again, as we mentioned, there's maps here coming into it that I think both sides favour. Fierce towards Villa, Demise towards Border, so there's just no chance it would be either of those two. My only fear coming into it is that Clubhouse is definitely one of Demise's favourites. So I hope Fierce are feeling confident. They have played it. So there is the opportunity that they know what they're doing with this one, but it's definitely bold to take a team to one of their clearly favourite maps and hope that you can achieve the best outcome against them.
Yeah, I mean, just looking at Demise's track record so far, they did beat Enclave 7-1 on Clubhouse, and they beat Kovana, then known as Burning Foxes, 7-5 on Clubhouse. So, as you say, they have been fairly dominant on it. Although, when you do look at that scoreline between them and Kovana, it's not quite as dominant as you perhaps hope. And Fierce Esports is a team that we would expect to be better than Kovana. They are sitting above them in the standings. So maybe this is something that Fierce can exploit, they can add to, they can build upon, and be able to take the map for themselves.
Well, this one is actually incredibly tight when it comes down to what the viewers at home think. 40.6% to 53.1%. Is that how maths work?
Hashtag Fear the Reaper.
Some people won't have voted. They will have voted for a draw.
Come on, guys. Yeah, think about the draw. Come on, Jackie.
The old cheeky draw.
Play the game, mate. Come on.
You only need to be concerned if it adds up to over 100.
It's all right. It's all right. Look, you know what? Draws aside, there is going to be a clear winner here. I think this one is going to be incredibly tight, though. Obviously, it is going to be a scrap between them both. Where is your stock, guys? Who have you invested into for this matchup, and what are your keys to victory for that team?
Mine's going for Fierce on this one. Even though we are going into a map pick that favours Demise, I would argue, I still think with the way they've played the whole season, they've looked very good. I was very impressed by Demise for the first 4 or 5 play days that we saw them. Not that I haven't continued to be impressed. I mean, we only saw them for 5 because the last one was their default win against Secret, for example. But I think over time, Fierce have only got better. They were very demotivated by CL Quals and the outcomes of that at the start, but they've kind of regained that confidence now and are looking like a team that can threaten even a team like Crazy, I think. They've prepared for them an awful lot for Quals. Didn't quite get the outcome they wanted, but I can guarantee you they are slathering at the shops to have a second chance at that one.
Slathering. It's a good word.
I also think that Fierce stonks are pretty high on this one. Demise, the thing is when they've played Clubhouse before, there have been some quite obvious issues, and those will be things that Fierce have gone back and they will know about them. For example, they know they like to run a double hard breach, and when one of them got picked off, that's when the team started having issues. I mean, that's a very obvious thing to be able to spot in a team. So unless Demise have made very keen improvements, these are going to be things that are easily exploitable. And I also just agree with Derry and what he says about how Fierce have just been generally impressive. And when you've got players like Shermie who've come in now, you never know what kind of effect that's going to have on this map.
Well, let's see for ourselves. We are ready. It's the number 2 team facing off versus the number 3 seed in Demise. Fierce. Let's see if they're going to be fierce enough for this one. I leave it with you. It's on Clubhouse. Let's have a whale of a time.
Let's indeed. A whale of a time. It's a really funny expression, that, isn't it? Why a whale of a time?
I don't know. I don't know
Because
the
it's
etymology
really
of that phrase.
Because it's really
Go
big.
away, Jackie. You're not meant to be here anymore.
Let's have a really big time. That sounds great fun. Yeah, Maverick, the first ban coming through. No surprise at all. If you've watched much Clubhouse at any point in the last 6 months, you would have seen a lot of the Maverick tricking that we've seen come through, where you essentially burn out half of the wall, burn out the bottom half of it, and the whole reinforcement falls away. It's then a soft breach. It is unpreventable by electronics, or the Zappy Boys, as Gio likes to call them.
I love
so.
That's what they're called. That's just what they're called, mate.
The Zappy Boys.
That's
the only
it,
person in the world that goes with that name, but we'll stick by it.
Yeah,
So we're going to see a very what's the name? Crazy-esque set of bands there in Capital Mirror coming through for the side of Demise. And Fierce going to round things out with the Maestro. So nothing really too surprising there in that ban phase, I'd say, all pretty much as normal for this map.
Yeah, I mean, even when you look at the past bans that these two teams have gone for, Fierce really like to ban out Maverick. It doesn't even really matter all that much on the map. They banned Maestro yesterday on Consulate, so it's fairly standard for them. And obviously when you consider what's normal for this map as well, nothing particularly exciting there.
Poor Melons. Worth noting, it's a really interesting stat for you. Half of the defensive rounds that he has played Maestro.
Wow.
And it's banned away. It's a target ban, pretty much against Melons.
He's going to be feeling pretty bad about that. I mean, it happens. So you got to pick on the new guy. That's the rule, right? Or was that just in my school?
Yeah. Well, no, I'd say it's pretty true. Fair enough. Kind of a new guy. He has played with him with one game before. Did pretty decently in that week as well. He is on the hard support when he is playing in that role. Otherwise, exactly as he is now, as you can see, going across on towards the Thermite. The setup otherwise coming out is very much as you would expect for a team where Maverick is banned away. The double hard breach along with a Thatcher will help them deal with the Zappy Boys, as both of them are present here for Fierce. And Harris being on that buck, it's just more in preparation, knowing that full well you can rip up the entirety of that corridor outside a kitchen. You can get to work and open up a lot of good angles in that area for your team to begin assaulting downstairs in towards the B site.
And this is, again, as I said, something that this team do like to do, bring the double hard breach, although I sort of touched on it before when they kind of kept getting their Hibana picked off early. That did prove to be a problem when they were playing against Enclave. Now, it is still Joshua Glitch who is playing that Hibana. He is the same player who's playing it before. And so it'll be interesting to see if Fierce do remember that and if they try and exploit that fact to give themselves the one-up very early on in this round.
We just appreciate as well how little utility has actually been brought by Fierce here for the setup phase. Alex, can you bring back up the overlay for me again for a second? Look how many C4s Fierce have brought along with them. They have 4 on side. That to me screams we are playing downstairs, playing a turtle-based play, and relying on that soft flooring to do some favors for us. So expect once we see the attacking side get set up here inside of the corridor outside of kitchen, there are going to be a lot of C4s raining up there. And even if they get past that and start pushing down the main stairs, well, you're going into what I call the death box. This area at the bottom of main stairs where every team loves to push down at some point, and you are greeted by C4s raining all the way through. Thank you very much, Alex.
Yeah, and they're basically watching every single point of ingress that you can have going down there. And obviously, Demise got to spend some time ensuring that this first floor is cleared out before they know that it's time to start moving down. Harris just opening up the floor there that thus far has not seen anything. They're going to be wanting to get that hatch open, but they are going to know that they are going to be met by quite a force when they head on down because of all 5 players being down there.
There's still a bit of work going on here, just making sure everything is droned out. They know what's going on. They feel pretty safe to start getting to work on Moto Hatch. I imagine Kitchen will be a focus for them next as well. But right now, it's just all about the setup phase. 90 seconds in, not really too much has happened yet, as you would probably come to expect. Harris might be trying to flank his way down blue here on the buck. Quite uncommon to see, as often you'll know that he's in a spot with that skeleton key to be opening up soft flooring, much more useful around the central stairs area. But right now, maybe it's the grenade play he's looking for. He still has both on side, just needs to be aware of where those ADSs have been placed down.
Joshua Glitch here just making sure his route in is fairly safe. Getting rid of that black eye too, that's going to be incredibly useful, as of course Fierce are going to be relying on those from the Valkyrie to help provide them with the information required about what's going on. Users just sitting in the garage right now. Death box, as you say. Getting ready, throwing in the nade. Not going to get anyone just yet, but they still have to break on into this site.
Doing the right sort of thing here as well. We've seen teams do this a couple of times where you try and put... They managed to get rid of both. No way have they managed to pull that off. Ooh. So very often what you'll see teams here is they'll go for Hibana onto that wall that's reinforced on the outside and have the Thermite open down to the south side as well. A Bandit can't handle both. At least one of them get opened up and then you're in a lot of trouble. Because they've got both the Kaid and the Bandit together, they can't get this church wall open. They've burnt so much for it already. However, Joshua Glitch will find 2 kills here, bringing up Shermie and Reese. Now things are starting to wrap up very, very quickly, mind you. 3 versus 3, down to the final 10 seconds, and the kills are going all blue right now, but Prox turns it back around. He's got a triple kill on the Kaid and uses his down by himself. I don't think he'll be able to get himself up in time because he's still got to try and run in and find the kill here. On a slither of HP, will not have the time. That was a very intense ending to that round, ruined only somewhat by the Zofia getting down inside of blue.
Yeah, you kind of could have expected Demise to have maybe turned turn it around to maybe clutch that one out. But as you say, bleeding out does not really help your chances there. But I think it got to the point where they realized they were going to be able to break open that wall. They just tried to get aggressive at the end, tried to win out those gunfights. And to be honest, Demise aren't a terrible gunfight team. It just didn't work out for them. And obviously what happened with users at the end was unfortunate for them. But the fact that it wasn't completely one-sided should give them some confidence going into the next round and the rounds upcoming that they could have the chance to win those situations out in the future.
Right, going into one of my favourite sites now as well, gym and bedroom. I mentioned yesterday that Coastline inside Kitchen and Service is one of my favourite sites to demonstrate a retake. This is one of my favourites because of the war over reinforcements and utility that is deployed as a result. What you're going to see here with that 6th pick coming through onto the Kaid for Prox is that they are going to stack so many electronics off towards the west side here, inside of both bathroom and on towards that jacuzzi wall out to the west. Their whole goal is to say no one gets inside here. All those gadgets are being protected by castle walls that should go onto this gym door. And then suddenly, well, it's a very tough question for the attackers of do we commit all of our utility in trying to get through this wall, or instead do we commit and try and push from somewhere alternative, like more going towards construction and making a push from there. We will see as the round gets underway in just 3 seconds.
The only thing that makes this kind of setup more exciting is when a mirror is brought along and you see those mirror windows be put in both the bathroom and the jacuzzi wall, but of course not going to be available as she has been banned out this round. And we did just see there the east wall also being electrified, fairly standard. It just makes it so much harder for the attacking team to move in from the other side of the map, and they have to use their utility to try and bust in through this jacuzzi wall, or at least that's what you see a lot of the time. But actually it looks like they're going to be spending time over here on the east,
yes,
just opening up with the X-Kairos there.
So you'd need to get this wall open here for a couple of reasons. One, you need to make sure that you've got this cleared out here and aren't just pushing from one direction, for example, down from Garage. The second is that for the defenders, if they can rotate in towards CCTV and play on the west window that faces across the whole of the south balcony, you as defenders cannot play on that south wall looking in towards the two sites. Like Usus is here, normally you'd expect some kind of cover from someone. That's exactly why you still got the Hibana, I believe, off towards the east side, outside of East Wall, just making sure that he's safe to play this angle. Otherwise, you risk someone rotating around and shooting you like Prox might be trying to do now. But he's got to be so cautious because there is going to be someone outside watching over the edge, as you just saw. And as he's evidencing right now, he cannot walk up to this window and deal with Usus. Well, run out might deal with it. Every time.
Yeah, I was going to say looking for the run out, but Claymore is going to be bringing him down instead. Now we're going to be losing his drone there, but opening up the wall here on the west. So far, I'm not seeing anyone, but there is that ping there. So they know that people are going to be around here watching onto this wall. This is such a prime location, and Demise have to be careful to not be picked off here before they have the opportunity to move on in.
So not really as stern a hold here off to the west side as I might have expected, but really good play by Demise so far. They've used the time very effectively because inside 90 seconds, they've managed to get that east side inside of CCTV locked down by the Hibana, and they managed to get over to the other side and open up West Wall entirely, and now even start pushing their way through some more. They're in a very, very comfortable spot right now, but they get C4'd out, and that will be the end of the Thermite. Prox landing that one from down below, I believe, actually. Probably throwing that up through the hatch inside of stock.
Well, now they're going to have to pick up the diffuser, and it's going to be risky because, of course, the defending team do know exactly where that's going to be positioned, and they're going to be waiting for that to happen. Right now, just holding onto these angles, they know that Demise have to start pushing in. There's nearly just about half a minute remaining on this round, and while they do have those doors open, there's 4 members standing of the defending team, and that's still going to require some effort to push through. Prox is going to be falling, and that could be a great opening here for Demise.
I really have to wonder why he chose to peek that one. All he had to do was sit back and wait for someone to push up those stairs. Push through the wall, but getting a little bit keen, it feels like. Now, Shermie's in the spot with the C4 here. He can land this perfectly if he gets it right. Yes, he does. Down goes the bomb carrier. Now into a 2 versus 2, only with the Goyo and the castle left. One of them falls down. Demise still in a great spot, and Dowie, sorry, is going for the plant once more. I don't think he'll be able to interrupt this one. All he's got to do is look around the corner. He'll be there in just in time, but someone is laid down. He will not find the head in time, and Demise just about take away that second round.
Fantastic there for Demise, especially given the fact that Fierce were able to get so many fantastic kills there with the C4. You mentioned it at the beginning of the round, Des, that they were going to be looking to use those very aggressively, and they did go pretty successfully. And of course, evening things out, I said that Demise on the last round should be feeling somewhat confident in spite of the fact they lost that first round. Well, that confidence should be growing now that they know they've got it to a 1 versus 1. Or 1-2-1, I should say.
A 1-2-1, absolutely. It was an impressive round. I liked how both teams played that out. Demise definitely the ones in a comfortable spot, and I think the most important thing to note from that one was the fact they managed to recover from 2 C4 kills coming from inside of that hatch that played downstairs from Jim. Despite 2 kills being found by Fierce, they still had members to come back in, pick up the diffuser, and go for yet another plant. So every possibility was covered there. I would be very surprised if Fierce choose to go back towards that site again anytime soon, because that was a pretty dominating outcome for the side of Demise.
I absolutely agree. This is going to be a site where they will be feeling the absence of that Maestro. A lot of teams like to play Maestro up on the rafters in the garage and also have the Evil Eyes up there. And then sometimes you typically see either like a Doc or a Legion, neither of whom they're actually going to be bringing. Instead, sticking with the Goyo, the Valkyrie, and of course having that classic smoke, which you like to have situated in the site so that when those attackers start to push in through that east wall, they can be smoked out, and it does act as that strong deterrent.
It looks like actually Shermie setting up a Goyo shield here. I'm always so unsure of the Goyo shields like this. As soon as that one gets burnt inside of the east wall there, that is going to be your bandit dead. Now, all it's going to take from the attackers here is to throw a grenade through the hole, just roll it in or something like that with Harris. And, well, that could be a very, very dead Prox in just a few seconds flat if they are not careful. So very curious to see how they play this one out and how it works out for them. They do have another shield, though, just inside a garage facing in towards that double wall. So they're in a spot where someone can sit and play behind that if they want to and not feel too contested from the angle. Again, your biggest fear and biggest worry is the grenades will rain through and you'll find yourself dead in no time at all due to the fire.
It is massively risky. They did something similar in the last round where the Goyo shield that they placed on the bed was facing away from the window.
Harris on that west balcony might be able to find something here. I don't think they're even trying to get the gadgets off this wall. What they're trying to do is get rid of the ADSs. Here we go. Now he's going to try and commit to this one as well. Going to try and pull it off and should be able to. No, he's actually bailed. Never mind. Harris. Is he out of grenades? I think he's run out of grenades already, hasn't he? Yes. Okay. He has no grenades left, so they can't easily force this one away now. And I believe they've used all 3 of the EMP grenades coming out of Dowie. So this is a tough spot for Demise to find a comeback into now that they're out of utility.
And you'd think that having the Buck and the Thatcher, you'd be in a pretty much a better position to be able to bust into this sort of site. But nope, they've made life very, very hard for themselves. Finally getting the opportunity to be opened.
Yep. All down to the Zofia as well. They managed to get that impact in for free. In no world should you be free to walk up and fire an impact at that Goyo shield to remove the bandit. That should be someone contesting that window that he pushed from. I believe it was the west window. It should be done pretty much for free for the defenders, but it wasn't in that case. So fair play, Demise have now got themselves a lifeline back into the game. It has taken 1 minute and 45, but we are going to start seeing a push come in towards this site no time soon. In no time at all, I expect. Shermie, though, will open the scoring in this round onto Harris, who, as we saw earlier on, is already completely out of grenades.
Yeah, Harris had a pretty disappointing round thus far. Gunfire going off in the distance, as you can hear. And this is where Demise are going to have to start making in this push. That's why we're seeing Joshua Glitch start to move in through construction. And likelihood is you'll be seeing, yeah, Dowie just repelling on the side there, trying to get in the angle here on the Thatcher. And pick off whomever they can. In goes the X-Kairos onto the construction wall. But the smoke is going to be coming out again, acting as that deterrent, preventing Josh from moving on forward. And the bandit battery is once again going down.
Prox has even managed to keep himself useful despite being removed from that east wall. He's now back onto the east one, to the west one, sorry, and is keeping construction tightened up. However, kills are being traded. You're going to see Melons running and find himself 1. Tyrant is on a tear, though, as he finds himself 3. Make that maybe 4. No, that was Kayak at the very end. But that is how you close the round out.
Tyrant is that player who we called out both yesterday and today, saying that he is incredibly impressive. Some of the best stats, if not the best stats out of any of the players in the game right now, or at least in Prem right now. And so, of course, unsurprising to see him be able to finish out a round in such fashion.
He might not strictly have the most kills. I believe that title after yesterday is held by Grizzly on 64, but he does have the 3rd best KD after Shermie and Yuzu. So, the kind of player you would expect to have big clutch moments just like that one. I'd say so far things have gone as expected. Clubhouse should more expect a kind of 4-2 split to come through in most instances. At the half of the first half, so a quarter of the way through, we're sat at 2-1. You would expect to repeat with the rotation of those sites for it to go roughly the same way, bringing Fierce to a 4-2 at the half. We go back downstairs, and it's the same strat coming out once again for the defenders here. 4 C4s on side with the double Zappy boys coming through.
I love that that's caught on. Well, it's caught on with you, and that's one more person.
I can't decide if I'm saying it because it's now caught on or I'm saying it just to mock you.
No, it's going to be one of those things that you start off saying it ironically, and then it stops being ironic. And then you hate yourself. But by that point, it's too late.
I'm going to start calling them the Electro Bros.
No, please don't. And also, surely you would say Elect-Bro. No, it doesn't work, does it?
No, Electro Bros at least has a bit of a ring to it.
I prefer
Don't ruin my fun, Gio.
You're ruining mine. Either way, what we saw last time when Demise came in to attack this site was they weren't quite able to get things off how they wanted to be able to open those walls and start moving in. So they had to go for a really aggressive rush at the end. And yes, there were trades backwards and forwards, but they weren't able to win it out. So they're probably wanting to be a little bit more methodical and a little bit, I don't want to say super slower, because it's not necessarily the pacing that was awful last time, but they are going to be very aware of where those mistakes were before and that they do need to fix them going in here, because they can't just rely on opening up those gunfights and just hoping for the best.
I think Shermie here tries to play really aggressive. They can try and catch, so at least can try and catch someone out as they try and push in towards this area. Even Tyrant is lurking as well. Doesn't matter that he's on this bandit. He's got all 4 batteries left in his back pocket. Hasn't put a single one down, but is still playing up here inside of the bar, waiting for the call to come out that it's the right time to push to try and find a kill. How have they not droned him out? Oh my God, they still haven't found him. This could be catastrophic for Demise if they don't find this out soon.
Oh, you're just seeing Melons' drone go on past and not seeing him. Usus is right there. He's right there. All this requires is a peek. He's just sitting there on his camera as well. Nope, still nothing. And this is the team that I said do fairly methodical droning. He just stood up there and still didn't get caught out, getting getting the 2K, and it's disastrous there for Demise, all because of their own incompetence and not being able to drone out where they should have.
Incredible that he finds a triple kill 2 rounds in a row. That one was for free. That's a gift. My word, Demise. These are the small things, small corners like that. You just don't know when someone is going to employ something that risky that early on. But equally, if you don't see a drone run in front of you when you sat behind bar, why would you move? They're assuming things are a bit too safe and they get caught out for it. Now there's a lot of work for both Melons and Harris to do by themselves here to try and swing this round back. They've got a minute or so to do so. They do have a hatch open, but they are at a massive numbers disadvantage. I say that, and Shermie gets himself down, so it's not quite all over yet for the boys in blue.
And you'd think it would be beneficial to them that they managed to bring down the Bandit before he even got to use any batteries, but given that the Hibana is dead and Melons is on a fairly low HP, you can't really just say, oh, well, they only have a Kaid now, that's going to make our lives easier. Harris trying to get these angles down the corridor, but he's going to be caught out in the process, and Fierce do take the round. They kind of deserve to take the round.
Yeah, I'd say it's pretty well deserved. Realistically, after the Tyrant spot, that's the call out. Okay. I love
That's
it.
what it's called now?
That's it. It's the Tyrant spot.
Works every time, according to Kayak.
It sounds far more sinister if you call it the spot of tyranny, because that was exactly what that spot turned into in that round. That was a 3-1 for them, though. 3-1 then. Like I say, 4-2 is probably how you'd expect this to end, sorry. But as it stands, well, things are going as preceded. That was the round that they managed to win back last time round. Gym and bedroom was where things got a bit sketchy, if you remember. Despite finding 2 C4 kills, Fierce couldn't quite come back to win the round after Dowie got the plant down. So let's see if they can fix the errors this time round they made last time. And that key error, I think, was a couple of over peaks, getting a little bit too brave at times, maybe not really giving enough respect to the attackers. Let's see if they can do it this time round on Gym and bedroom.
Yeah, this time they're not going to be bringing the Goyo, which they did when they were on this point before. And it did mean that Demise did use some of their utility to get rid of those Goyo shields, but I think ultimately it didn't actually do all that much for them. So obviously making the changes, especially given that they did lose this site last time, that's very good for them. You want to be the team who is making those adaptations. Need to be relying on the Valkyrie to provide that information, but of course having the double Zappy boys is definitely going to help.
The Electro Bros. Let's not forget.
No, I'm sorry, no.
I'm sorry, but yes.
With all due respect, you're an idiot.
Wow, that's a bit harsh. Okay, fair enough. Gym and bedroom it is then. Let's see how this one sets up. Same again, that they have got enough friendship. What friendship? Anyway, holding off towards the east now with the extended hold, as you saw, those double walls are reinforced up once again. I expect we'll see another bit of electrification being stacked up over there. Last time round, it's not so much the fact that you're like, oh, well, why are they putting it there? They can get rid of those gadgets super easy. It's the fact that you're forcing utility out of the Thatcher because it's the path of least resistance. It's the least risky one to push down, that it paid off for them. This is why you're going to see them expending gadgets for that purpose in the first place. Now, you can see where Shermie's in here. I'm not sure if his camera's just in the right place to know that someone is out here, because Harris is nearby. If he gets back on his cameras now, he will see that. That shot, though, is going to give all that Harris needs to know that there is someone playing inside a strip. And now if they want to, then call someone back, get a drone in and pick off this member who's all by himself.
This last member, yeah, the Valkyrie is going to be sitting there on his cameras. Right now, Joshua Glitch is on his own up on the east side, just waiting to have the call to start to push in. Now we're seeing Shermie. He is trying to get these angles. Is going to bring Harris down very early. So though we did see the buck, did know that he was there, but unfortunately for him, it was not enough. Now this wall is finally getting opened, but with Kayak and other members of the team here holding on this angle, once again, we could find that Demise have an issue with pushing in until the very last minute. Of course, it worked out for them before, but it's still a risky way to go.
You got to watch out for Shermie here because he's still got hold of the C4 in his back pocket after finding that earlier kill onto Harris. I'm worried about the spot that he can get himself into right here because as it stands, he's got all this free ground floor to move his way across. And if he wants to, play from underneath with that C4 to catch someone out when they try and go for a plant inside a gym. You can already see quite a lot of it has had the wall soft destroyed just so they know what's going on if they do go for a plant in one of those default spots. And there we go. Dowie finding one onto Prox. That's a pretty big one for them as that is one of the C4s off the board.
Users is going to be falling as well. That's that really key fragger that we've spoken about here for the side of Demise. And they're still going to be waiting to push on in. Tyrant's in a pretty safe space here. He does have that reinforced wall to his back, which hasn't been open, the bathroom wall that is. This is where actually sometimes you do see a Mozzie play if people decide to bring Mozzie onto this map. But he's just there ready with the battery. Not looking like it's actually going to be time for him to use it yet. So he hasn't received the info to suggest. So there we go. Now it's finally going to be put down. It's going to make it a little bit harder for Demise to push on in. Half a minute remaining, and Melons is going to be falling. That's going to make it very hard here for Demise to win this round out. Tyrant falling as well, but it doesn't matter. Fierce do win out that round, and Demise unable to recreate the success they had on this site before.
This is why you so often need to deal with roamers. When we saw that Harris knew that Shumi was nearby because he shot out the drone in the drone hole, I thought surely there is another drone to follow in here as well so they can make... Please stop saying good God, guys. It's tilting me. As soon as they had him in there, they should have known that a drone should have come through and at least supported Harris to push into him to try and find the kill. But they left him quite blind. He lost the gunfight, and that gave Shumi access to the entirety of the map. He was rotating through blue. He was pushing up, down all of the ground floor, got to wherever it is that he wanted to be, found 3 kills around the map without really getting involved in the main gunfights. And you saw the quad kill at the very end, rotated all the way back up inside his sight, and found the 4th on the man with his back turned. Really beautiful roaming coming out of him there, and really well played, and a great round for them to take. Let's not forget, that was the one that they lost last time around. Now we go on to a site that they won back in round number 3, and this half could be 5-1.
I was about to say the very same thing. We've been talking about how you'd at least expect a 4-2 at the half. Fierce could be finding themselves in an even better position. Just got to ensure, Demise this is, they just have to ensure that they are really thoroughly droning out. They're using that information that they have, because not only have we seen them fall because of a lack of droning, or a lack of sufficient droning, I should say, but now also in that last round, we've seen them not necessarily be completely vigilant to where those roamers could be. And that's not even just about droning. I mean, for example, Harris knew where the Valkyrie was, and it seemed that once he went down, they just stopped kind of paying attention to it. And that's not something that you can afford to do, especially going against a team like this, like Fierce, who always seem to know exactly what they're doing, exactly where they are, and exactly where they're meant to be. You can't afford to have that lapse in judgment.
It's small things in these rounds. I mean, this is what you get when you get 2 teams of a pretty decent caliber. And these are, let's not forget, we've said it already, these are 2 of the top teams that the UK has to offer. And we are seeing a good game of Siege being played. There's no massively critical errors like misdroning or just throwing away all your drones in the droning phase. There's now been a few rounds that I can count where all 10 drones were still left alive at the end of the prep phase. Now, I say all 10, more like all 5. Of course, this round, we're seeing the first one go down there for Melons. God bless the new UI. That's all I'll say.
It's so useful, isn't it? This is the first time that...
It's
well,
beautiful.
Yeah, you got to cast it at SI, but this is the first time that I've used it, and I was a bit apprehensive because I was like, oh, I'm not used to looking at the sides of the screen. But you know what? It's actually great. I mean, even now we can see Users has all his lifelines left. I wouldn't have known that before. All right, maybe I would have.
And you can see that the drone UI is now working, which helps as well. You can see when they're available, when they're dead. Of course, when they're in back pocket, which is when they are dark grey. When they're white, they are out on the field. And when there's an X, you can guess what that means. They've been destroyed. They did, just like that.
They did. Well, Demise aren't rushing into anything just yet, and this is kind of what we'd seen from them before, where they played in week 2. They weren't really rushing, but now they've just been allowed straight up into Garage, and Brock's going down. Kaya going to be following up. And this is where Demise can just start to push straight on into the site. The Valkyrie is still downstairs, and she's going to be wanting to make that roam coming straight back up, although she doesn't look like she's in all that much of a rush to do so. Nonetheless, this is a great position for Demise to be in, as all 5 members of their team are still standing.
If you're Prox, you are screaming right now that he was not getting cover onto that window, let alone the entirety of Garage. You cannot let a team have 10 seconds to walk in from outside, straight up onto Catwalk, and at the window there, killing your bandit, who's done so well, both in this round and the last time they played on this site, to be there preventing these walls being opened up. You remember last time round, they got this wall open, Prox was straight over to construction wall and was blocking that away from the Hibana. Without him on side, that now makes this a much tougher affair. And if there's anything else, Demise can now take their time a bit more. They know that they've got all the utility in the world they need. They had died with those EMP grenades to deal with what was thrown out onto the field, and now they're into a 5 versus 2, all because a simple angle like the Garage wasn't being watched by the defenders.
It's a bit disappointing there that Reese did leave throwing that smoke grenade in. until after Shermie had gone down and Tyrant falling as well. This pretty much makes things impossible here for him. He's not even going to win out that final gunfight. And that will be a flawless round there for Demise. And we said maybe it would be a 5-1, Derry. We were wrong. It's a 4-2 at the half, something a little bit more expected. And that was a great round for Demise.
I'm still in a bit of disbelief as to how that error was made there. Watching Garage, like even just having someone there temporarily just to waste a bit of time is a very standard thing when defending there. And okay, sure, you're looking maybe towards saying, look, we've got the Glow Shield on there. If we need to pop it, we will. It's no drama at all. The problem is if no one's watching it, who's there to pop it? It comes back to bite them. They lose what could turn out to be a very critical round if this second half starts leaning towards playing on towards Demise's side. We are starting things off on the downstairs, as you may come to expect. Swapping out that Valkyrie for the Goyo, and Legion is going to join us for this round as well. There are lots of thoughts out there in the community, Geo, around Legion. Personally love him, but I completely get why many absolutely despise him.
I really like him. It is interesting here because it means they're not going to have the double Zappy boys that we did see come out from Fierce when they were on the defense. But nonetheless, this is what they decide works for them. Slow down the push rather than playing the denial quite as much on site as we saw before. It's all about that playstyle. And of course, he does bring those impacts as well.
On the attacking side, exactly the same lineup as what we saw coming through for Demise on most of their attacking rounds as well. Pretty common coming through on this map. If a Maverick is available, then maybe you take that over something like the Thermite. But in absence of the Thermite, well, you're more likely than not going to be looking towards playing on the banner. So, setup-wise, nothing too surprising coming out. There is no one playing in Tyrant spot. I'm very glad to report. For the most part, everyone is playing on the downstairs. You can see Harris is getting that final reinforcement down on towards the Moto hatch. He's backing himself back down those main stairs in prep for what is no doubt going to be a assault coming in from Fierce in the coming seconds. Now, I mentioned earlier on with Kayak, when we had him, it wasn't Kayak, sorry, it was the Harris on the other side when he was playing on Buck. He did do a bit of work to begin with, but then once he started getting a little bit of flooring up, he kind of completely changed his idea and said, I'll tell you what, I'm going to go and push blue instead. Wasn't too sure how that played out. He did play with grenades down there. Obviously, didn't win the round out in the end. I would have liked to have seen him just stay around the central stairs area and make use of the grenades in the flooring that he's opened up to try and seek out kills. Because as it stood that way round, well, you're losing some of that key soft destruction that is so required when pushing down central stairs that, well, they just missed all the kind of pressure they possibly could have applied and found themselves stuck at the bottom of main stairs.
Shermie just trying to get in those shots above Joshua Glitch down here. He's not going to be deterred just yet. He's going to stay there, and he's got his ADS by his side, which will make him safe from potential incoming projectiles. But at some point, he is going to have to make a move. Harris playing here on the side. And a lot of the members of the defending team are playing very close to the site here. But still, all 10 members standing. No one gone down yet. And half the round has already counted down.
But the pressure is being applied. 90 seconds. You can feel it now that they've managed to get these hatches open and started doing work elsewhere as well. You've even got Reese being prepared to start pushing down main stairs here if required. Shermie, this is what I like to see now. With the Shermie pushing down there on the Zofia, you've got much more utility to deal with whoever might be playing deep inside the blue, trying to stop your push coming down. The answer is there's roughly 2 of them. There's one actually inside blue. The other one is lying down inside a church and waiting. But it's more the fact that you've got pressure here and they know they need to be able to back each other up if it really comes down to it.
Yeah, it's that Jaeger that's there in blue, and what this means is that if he does have to go and make a rotation, he's got this crossfire that he has to worry about, and that's very high pressure. It's very threatening going against Zofia there with her ACOG, and it's a hard fight that he's gonna have to take. But at some point, he is gonna have to move because he can't stay there forever as this pressure is continuously applied to his team.
Yeah, it's a bit of a tough one. They are starting to force things down. You can see Shermie's rotated all the way around here. Actually, they've even put Tyrant now playing on those stairs. So they want to bring along the Zofia for the assault down main stairs. No C4s have sailed over that wall yet. But then equally, there's probably not that many to kill there. I think 2 are pushing down right now. Still, 2 kills with a single C4 would not be a bad outcome for them. So the push is starting to come through now. That hot drop comes in as well. And in fact, Brooks has managed to straight get in. He's even going straight for the diffuser right here. If someone dares to push in, which they will try and do, they're going to get sprayed from up inside this hole. But there we go. Users figured it out and brought him down. That diffuser is now on site. So the rest of the team are going to have to push so aggressively right now if they are going to make this work.
And Kayak just trying to hold this angle, preventing any of those members coming in, but Demise turning things around slightly. Ooh. Kung Fu Melons is going to be falling, but is there going to be enough time? Nope, Demise, they managed to take the round. And that was, you know, even though Fierce, they were being kind of smart about the way they were doing it. I really liked the positioning that they were playing. it just wasn't enough. Demise able to hold on to that site.
They got a little bit caught up there, I think, in trying to plan and find the right point of ingress. Like, okay, we'll apply a little bit of pressure here. Okay, no, can't push there. Let's try somewhere else. Nah, can't really push here. Screw it. Let's just go for a hot drop and hope for the very best. And hey, he didn't get sprayed as soon as he dropped in because the right angles were being watched. But as soon as he died and that defuse was in there with 13 seconds left on the clock, that round was as good as done. It was Dowie who came in with that final kill at the very end to shut down the diffuser planter once again. And that was the end of that one. 4-3 now in favor of Fierce. Again, we are on the defensive side of things here. You would expect Demise to take more of these rounds, but 4-2 is the scoreline you're generally aiming for.
Yeah, I mean, the exciting thing for Demise here is if they are able to win this one out, that is going to put them on the same scoreline as Fierce. And this was, well, Fierce were the team that you and I both thought were going to be doing the best. Although, obviously, as we saw from the vote from Twitter, people did expect this to be very close. And actually, more people thought that it would be Demise who'd be taking the round, or taking the map, sorry. So it could be that this is where things start to turn around if they can continue to play relatively unperturbed. I think that was a very strong thing for them in that last round, is the fact they didn't let that pressure, especially from the Zofia, disturb them. They didn't let it affect how it was they were going to play. They were able to win things out. If they can keep that up, this could be the turning point here for Demise.
4-4 would definitely not be a bad spot to be in, knowing you're on the defensive side, but got to win this round to be able to get through that. Let's hope for no grave mistakes like we saw coming out of Fierce earlier on when they were the ones defending on towards this site. Again, if you don't recall, it was a sudden charge up through Garage, which really just put a thorn in their side and completely disrupted any chance of them winning out on that round. So for the attackers, they are all over this site like ants over a nest, as you might come to expect. They've even managed to get this wall open in no time at all. That was with a bandit being on side for users. Now Kai's going to push in, doesn't check his back corner though, gets himself brought down, but will find a kill for himself. Demise still with the kill advantage right now, as you're left with only Shermie and Prox alive to make something happen. That's brought down to a 2 versus 2 as Prox finds a kill onto Josh. And Shermie, let's not forget, one of the big fraggers, if not arguably the best KD in the league right now. He's having a brilliant performance once again today. But it's got to find these crucial kills now when it counts the most if they want to have any chance of being able to swing this game towards their side. Brock's in a great spot. C4 is going to swing out, though. He's immediately backing away, but still gets caught out. This now means that Shermie's in a spot to have to go and find both of these kills entirely by himself. This is not a pretty spot to be in. Good idea, mate, but he's at the bottom of the stairs. Not quite in the right sort of spot. Backs away immediately, though, and will not find that kill.
Oh, well, Shermie going to be falling. So Demise, they are able to take that one. And that was a really aggressive, very aggressive push there. I was thinking, oh, you know, maybe this will go a little bit slower because they know they can't push into the garage, but nope, just burst open the wall, rush on in, constant trades backwards and forth, and Demise able to win that one out.
Bit of a surprise party there to try and achieve that, but no, wasn't to be the case. So at 4-4, gym and bedroom going to be the off-site of choice here. Let's not forget, if this carries on as it's been going so far, what you might expect is that this site would be lost by the side of Demise and Fierce, to pick this one up, taking us to 5-4, and then you'd have 2 rounds back-to-back for the side of Demise, and the final round going across to Fierce would end things out at 6-6. And as much as it would be a fair reflection of the skill of both of these teams if it ended in a draw, I almost feel like we need to see a victor in this fixture. We need to see who's really going to grab this game by the horns and just charge it through to victory, because one of them has got to take that second spot, and I think as things stand, it would be Fierce taking that spot based on the round difference that we've got so far.
Yep, Fierce are sitting ahead of Demise from that respect, so it does have to be a decisive win if Demise are to be the team who come in second. Interesting here that Fierce have decided to bring up a different attacking lineup. I think when Demise were on the attack, they played the same composition every single round, but this time Kayak's going to be there on the IQ instead of the team bringing the bug. And of course, there are plenty of gadgets that you want to be looking out for. Of course, those Electro Claws from Joshua Glitch, as well as the Black Eyes from the Valkyrie. And the team did, of course, play an Echo in the last round. Not necessarily as popular to play on this site, but they don't know that those yokais aren't necessarily there, but they are going to certainly be expecting the electrification coming out from the team.
And a lot of it as well. I think they've just got a second one down. Maybe not just yet. Yes, they have, actually. I'm a liar. So this is what I thought we were going to see back in the first half of this map when it was Fierce on the defense. That we'd see a lot of stacking of electrification off towards the west side here. As long as they're careful, because a single well-placed Thatcher EMP grenade here could get rid of both electronic claws, in which case, well, you're pretty done for. So Fierce could just try and roll it through the floor if you really wanted to. Heck, you might even just find it here with that one. There we go. Both are gone, and now they're completely out of electro claws. End of story.
Straight away. And so this could just be a very quick, very sudden push through. They are going to be sending in those drones before they rush in, but that lifeline is going to be there, ready to stun anybody out, get rid of any kind of Goyo shields, whatever might be down this corridor should they require it. There we go, going straight onto that shield. It's going to make that so much harder to protect the defending team. And after this round of droning, we should start to see the attackers begin to move in.
Fierce second in good time here as well. 60 seconds in, they've already got all these walls open. They are inside the building. They are starting to make things happen. You can even see Tyrant peeled off actually all the way towards the other side. I think he's even pushing in towards CCTV here, so he's in a spot where he doesn't have to worry about just holding down the angle. He can afford to push in with his team as well, which is really mega for them. Now taking control of the south balcony as they've already got control of West Wall. All the pieces are starting to fall together here for a plant attempt to come out of Fierce. But as we've seen from them previously, they like playing with C4s. Drones downstairs, making sure no one has the opportunity to play around that, should put them in good stead to go for a plant.
Yeah, you of course want to be wary of the Valkyrie, the Goyo, and the Kaid when it comes to things like that. But so far, looking like things may be safe for them. Most of the players of Demise are playing upstairs. You do have one player just downstairs. I think it's just one from what I can see. And so that will give Fierce the opportunity to begin to move on in. They are still playing cautiously.
The thing is now with the Habana dead, there's no one to cover that east balcony, so they've got to be so wary of that window inside of CCTV right now. That might even be actually one coming in from, I thought it was going to be Melons for a second finding a kill, but no, it was Prox instead getting that one. They are right, that one of the remaining members, or one of the 4 remaining members, I should say, is inside of stock. But that angle is being held so tightly right now that any kind of peek around this corner is going to land you in hot bother. Josh will find a kill onto Shermie, who was pushing in towards the east. He is soon the position where the Habana once was, but he will lose out on that gunfight. Now into a 3 versus 2, though, in favor of Demise. And Prox has managed to crawl his way straight inside of sight. Is no one watching here? Surely they know that someone is inside the bathroom. Surely the drones have told them. He knows. He's going to try and push him for that one. Will know that he's there, but still loses the gunfight. That one's going across the Dowie playing on the castle. Now it's down to the final 2 versus 1. Going to have to try and stick this plant if Reese wants to make anything happen here. But all it's going to take is the voice to push him for construction. And this round is done.
There's so much patience there from Dowie as well. He had been sat there in the bathroom ever since they threw on the electric claws to the bathroom wall. He was just sat there waiting, not rushing out, not trying to get those kills, but just playing patiently. And that has been what has worked out for this team so far. Pretty disappointing there for Fierce to have not won that out, but it does put Demise ahead of them now insofar as the score goes. So they're going to be returning back to their premier site, which is Church Arsenal, unsurprising, and they are going to be bringing out not quite the same composition as before, because, oh, well, there we go. They've got the Kaid now.
It works. They'll play it. They'll take it. It's another C4 on side as well. I mean, the Valkyrie had one too. It's just lacking out on the intel there more than anything else, but the electrification, I think, is the big one. Isn't going to be a bandit on side though, so not quite the same setup we saw coming out of Fierce when they were the ones on defense, but arguably this is enough because Melons being on this Legion, just dropping down a few of those goo mines gives you enough intel when someone is pushing in. Of course, things have changed recently where not quite as effective at that, but as long as you're careful, you should be able to know that what's going on when someone is pushing from and be able to relay that back in towards your team. So, setup-wise, nothing too surprising. Harris, we saw actually at the end of the prep phase last time, still being hung around upstairs. He is in there a little bit earlier this time around to make sure that is down and dusted. What I want to see from Fierce, though, is a lot more focus. I think it got to about 1:30 last time around, and they then spent the next 45 seconds to a minute kind of sat at the top of blue, sat at the top of main stairs, sat watching the drop through kitchen, like, well, do we go for it? Do we not? Like, what's the call, guys? What do we do? And then they tried to go for an all-or-nothing drop at the very end, which, as we saw, didn't work out very well for them. So I want to see them being a bit quicker, give themselves more time to make things work out here. And if you have to, just try and brute force your way through one of those angles. You can't afford to sit there for a minute and do nothing in a game where you only have 3 minutes per round.
Well, yeah, that is absolutely what worked out for Demise on their final attack round. I think you kind of hit the nail on the head there. Fierce's pacing has been very strange because playing patiently is great up until a certain point, because when you've only got a certain amount of time left, that you have to be decisive. You have to know what it is you're going to do. Now we're seeing Shermie start to head down here into blue like he did before. Again, just holding on to this angle, but the question is, are Demise going to be expecting this to happen once again? They know that it happened before.
Well, we are here about 45 seconds faster than last time round. It's not the end of the world, but it's going to be exactly the same. It's these two playing a little bit of chicken in a way in terms of who's going to pop their head out first. And I guarantee you, Joshua Glitch is more than happy to sit and hold that point. Now, Kayak's going to find himself a kill, this time from inside a kitchen, to get things started off, but gets C4'd from below. That's that soft destruction now removed, which is only going to hurt them the longer this round burns on. They haven't quite got to work on doing all the terraforming they wanted to. So now the question is, how are they going to make it work for them in this situation? Shermie may have some breach charges, but that's about it.
Yeah, that was incredibly painful there for Kayak. Oh, yeah. Well, that'll help if there's any runouts, which is entirely unlikely. But he is going to have to start being decisive and do something. This team needs to push in. Over half the time is gone once again. And Reese is really the closest there is to being at this point. He's sending in his drone, but none of the rest of the team are down here. Shermie's actually rotated all the way around, has decided he's going to start pushing in now. But it's going to be so much harder. Oh, sorry, I was going to say so much harder lacking one of those hard breaches, but they haven't lost either one of the hard breaches. So in goes the lifeline, and they just want to be preparing this now so that they can try and get that wall opened up.
Being starved out so early, I think, is not really going to be a bad thing by the smokes. Only on the basis that they know now that that's not going to be a thing or a threat the later on this goes. So as we get in towards that final 25 seconds or so, it's going to help them a lot. Prox in the same rough spot as last time, not quite the same. Will find himself down from safely inside a church. This feels just like last round all over again, Gio. 25 seconds left. The diffuser is down inside the site itself. Lands straight onto a goo mine. Has managed to recover the diffuser, but they know that there is one playing inside a dirt, and there are still 3 other members left alive. The numbers advantage is firmly against them right now. And this is a really weird spot to be planting right in the corner. Not quite tucked away, but equally exposed to someone inside of tunnel. He has gone down already, so now it's a 4 versus 2. I don't see how Fierce bring this one back. The Mice should be finding themselves going through to a 6-4 right now. They are 1 round away from snatching away a guaranteed finals appearance from Fierce.
Yeah, Fierce should be really concerned. I came into this game thinking this was going to be not a really big stomp, but quite a decisive win. We all thought that Fierce were going to be the team to take it, but actually Demise just looks so confident here on the defense. They're managing to control the pacing of what's happening and force Fierce into these situations where they have to be a little bit sweaty, you know, just a little bit concerned, constantly looking over their shoulder, never really knowing who is looking at them, in spite of how much it is they're droning, how much it is they're trying to gather the information they can on their enemies. So returning back up to CCTV and Cash, this time Demise is going to be bringing the Mozzie, which this is the first time we will be seeing the Mozzie in this game so far. So you can have some of that droning. Well, I mean, they'll be able to take the pest, but what I mean is so they can have some of that roaming.
Yeah, at least they're bringing the Mozzie this time round to block out some of the intel. Is it going to be enough? Not so sure. They brought the Echo last time round as well. Wasn't really the most useful for them. And we've seen Bandit. Okay, there's been a lot of Zappy boys or Electro bros, whatever we're going for right now. There's been a lot of that on this map for both sides, admittedly. I think we've only seen 1 or 2 rounds where one of them hasn't been brought along. So, if they can get this all up again, if they can not make the same mistakes that we saw coming out of Fierce earlier on, Demise are in a great spot to be able to close this game out and take that second spot away from Fierce, as we mentioned previously. If we find them making another key slip up, this is where things can really come back to bite them, because then you go into that spot where a draw can get forced in the following round and Fierce can then hold on to that second spot. So although we've still got 2-round padding here for Fierce, this is a very, very crucial round that Demise need to win, I think, if they want to take this match away.
Yeah, I really want to be seeing Shermie perform how he did yesterday. I mean, he hasn't been playing badly at all, but yesterday it felt like he was way more available to be free reign and work on his own kind of his own I don't know, that's not even necessarily the right way to put it. It's just he seems like he's trying to play as the team want him to. He's trying to play further black. He's not going forward and getting the same amount of kills that he was yesterday. And that was so beneficial for him before. And it just really seems to be holding Fierce back. And especially when you're going against the Mozzie now as well as the Jaeger, there is that potential for the defensive side to be getting those rotations in and running rings around you. Melons is going to be the first to fall though, and that is potentially going to open things up here for Fierce as they start to move in.
Shermie's going to find a kill onto Harris, so in a very comfortable spot. That was inside a stock, I believe, there. What on earth is this view angle? Wonderful. No idea what that was, but we'll go with it. Still, Shermie's got himself inside a stock right here. So now that he's below, this is where you can do quite a bit of damage with those impacts if you can take control of the rest of the area as well. Well, goodbye to that drone. shot out straight away, and that'll be cleansed away. But what he can do from below here is be able to deny the bandit from below with Shermie on this Sophia. So a bit of an alternative approach taken there. Admittedly down to the issue they mentioned a second ago. Unfortunately, you can't repel on the wall, but still in a great spot, and they still managed to get the wall open all the same.
Well, Josh Glitch is going to be falling. That takes it down on both of the roamers on this side of Demise. Now they're just remaining with Usus and Dowie. This is going to be pretty difficult here, especially as Usus is going to be falling. This is a good situation here for Fierce to be in, but they still have to finish things out. In goes that final smoke. But once again, I think Dowie was the last one remaining on the last time that they were on this round. Down goes the diffuser as well. It's just looking like a very good situation here for Fierce to be in, as it's going to be so difficult for this smoke to be able to retake the site.
Yeah, he's got a lot to do. He's got even to kill down this last member here as well. He's going to go for a bit of a pre-fire and hope to catch him out, but isn't the case. 30 seconds to kill 3 and get the defuse off. I don't know about you, Gio, but I don't really fancy his chances there. And sure enough, the chances will not come to light in this round. Fierce do take round number 5, despite having a bit of an issue at the start there with Shermie. 6-5. This is what I mentioned earlier on. If this round goes the way of Fierce now, this round is super important, because if Fierce win this one, it ends in a draw. Yes, it's a bit of an anticlimactic ending to the game itself, but it will mean that Fierce are the ones who hold onto that second place spot, and Demise get thrust into playing against another team in the playoffs on Saturday.
I suspect Fierce is suddenly starting to feel a little bit more fortunate, because there will have been a few rounds there where they started to get a bit concerned about what their chances look like. But now things are looking like they could be in their favor once again. If they are able to pull this out into a draw, as you say, Des, it does mean that they're going to be the ones getting that bye into the finals. So now back to gym and bedroom. This has been a site that Demise have been able to defend pretty well. Now, they do have the castle back as well, kind of expected, but he really was that key player before, who his patience, just sitting in the bathroom there, being able to catch out those final members of Fierce, did really put a thorn in their side. And of course, they're going to be droning that out. They're going to be ensuring that they know whether he's there or not, and that could make it a lot harder for him to be able to recreate such events. But nonetheless, this is a site that Demise have enjoyed the fruits of successes.
Let's see if they can continue to sip on that sweet nectar for this concluding round. Electrification, well, once again, as we mentioned, every single round there seems to have been 1 bar, 1 or 2 rounds, and this time it's on to Josh, who's sat on 10 kills himself so far this game. Been a good game for him, along with Dowie. So it isn't quite usually popping off the way that maybe you would have come to expect looking at the scores so far from this season, but those two most definitely doing a good amount of work for their team. Probably the most key thing I can notice looking up and down the scoreboards on both sides, with the exception of Melons, everyone is carrying their weight here as well. Like, yes, he's 3 and 10, but he has been doing work with the Goyo. He's been getting those shields down. We, of course, know what impact they can have. But otherwise, everyone else has been weighing in and really trying to pull themselves through to victory. That's just how close this game has been.
Well, Fierce just preparing for this entrance in. Josh Glitch very close to that east side. And of course, Harris as well, attempting the run out. Didn't actually get anything. And Josh Glitch is going to be going down to Kayak. That Kaid was so close over there. Oh, yeah, his life is body. Looks pretty depressing. But that is going to give Kayak a little bit more free reign, a little bit more freedom to start to move in, to start to open things up, not have to worry about that threat, and of course not having to worry about that C4 that comes along with the Kaid as well.
Yeah, it's the fact that there's no more versatility to those electro claws that's going to hurt, I think, as well. If you want to repurpose them when once the push angle changes, well, that is no longer a thing, it would appear. Also, a lot of work being done off towards that garage side as you saw. It was actually the Harris on the Valkyrie a second ago did rotate far away from that, back in towards Cash. Knew that there was someone playing around there. Didn't want to get himself caught out, so backed away pretty quickly. Playing things safe because there is no need to go getting caught out in silly gunfights in a crucial round such as this. 90 seconds in though, and the walls are being opened up. That's bathroom opened up. The west wall is opened up. Everything is being opened up, basically, Gio. So this is going to be a very bloody final 60 seconds with the way things are squaring up.
Yeah, I think it's going to be quite the scrappy fight. We have seen the castle move away as he knows that Fierce are going to be expecting him to be in a certain position. In goes the nade. It's not going to quite be enough, but having to take refuge right underneath that hatch there was a super risky position for users to be in. Now he's just waiting to see if he can catch out his prey. Harris doing the same thing as well here on that roam. He's going to be looking onto that cameras as he knows that Shermie is close by. None of those key fights have broken out just yet, but it's only a matter of time with just 45 seconds left to go.
Now they're starting to war over this window that I always speak about here. It's Harris who's trying to kind of cause a bit of contest here as well to give them something else to think about from another angle without putting yourself at any great risk. Now, Fierce have got 4 left alive. They are down without a single drone, so this is all pushing in blind here, but it is a 4 versus 2. Harris is in a spot to cause a lot of troubles for them if they can't deal with him. Him being in the spot means that south balcony is not safe. Now, Reese is going to try and go for the plant, and he may yet be able to pull this one away. They can't be stopped. That plant's gone down. Now we're in a really difficult spot. That C4 may be a little bit late here, but it's going to be a kill going on elsewhere around the map as Kite brings down Yuzus. It's a 1 versus 4. It's all down to Harris to make magic happen for him here. He doesn't check the bottom of the stairs, so gets himself sprayed down. Fierce force the draw and hold on to second place.
And that is maybe not the result that we were expecting, but it's going to be a result that Fierce are so happy with. Things did look like they were in a bit of dire straits for them as the defensive rounds for Demise started to go so well for them, but being able to turn things around into that draw, getting themselves secured into that finals, that is huge for Fierce.
Just looking at those kills as well. 8, 8, 8, 9, 8 for the side of Demise there, I think it was. Absolutely. Like I said, everyone weighing in. Everyone doing their role. That was Fierce, sorry, not Demise. 6-6, I think a pretty deserving scoreline in a way for one of the most hotly contested games of the season. However, I really would have liked to have seen a winner coming out of this one.
My goodness, a draw, guys. Obviously, we thought it'd be going down to the wire. It seems so from the poll that we did have. But the fact we've made it to this point is incredibly interesting. We're also just going to be checking behind the scenes exactly if this is going to be affected by the round difference to see what positions we are left in from this in case there's any shenanigans that do occur. And we'll let you know as soon as we get that information. We've got our admin team delving into the statistics right now.
Fair enough. We will see. Time will tell. But it was a really interesting game because, like I said, I think everyone really stepped up and contributed today. Melon's a little bit low on the kills. He is a support player. That is to be expected. So I think it's pretty fair to say from what we saw from the contribution from every single player, they really did give it their all. A couple of key mistakes, I think, for Fierce that I mentioned back in the first half. That should have been a 5-1 for them, except for the fact they didn't watch Garage when they're defending CCTV and Cash. But they still managed to pull things back in their favour and have it as a draw, which, as said, should secure them the second spot.
Yeah, I was going to mention that same round at the end there. It was really kind of just an oversight, and it's something that can be fixed. It's something that they can be like, all right, we know that we're not going to do that again. I think another thing with Fierce is they did lose their drones very quickly. I mean, Shermie especially was just a player who very frequently had both of his drones off the map, completely dead very early into each round. But these are things they can improve upon. And, you know, assuming that it does turn out that they do have this buy into the finals, if that's how the admins decide that it works, then those are things that they can focus on. And so I don't think they need to be too concerned. This was an opponent who people thought were going to be their kind of scariest opponent, the people who would give them the biggest run for their money. And so it's not too much of a disaster, but for Demise, it was just so close.
Yeah, no, definitely a lot of impact across the board from everyone. But if I've got to try and push you guys for your thoughts on who could potentially be in the running for player of the match, who'd you gravitate towards, Des? I know you're impressed by some of those Electro Bro plays. So
Thank you.
Yeah.
Using a superior term. What? Thank you very much.
It's the more creative one. I feel like it's more original.
Electro Bros, Gio.
Yeah.
Get with the program. I gotta say,
Electro Bros.
Shockingly
good.
I'll probably give it to Dowie, I think. Although it's the easy answer to go for someone like Tyrant after getting triple kills in quite a few rounds, I actually thought Dowie across rounds was quite consistent. You don't normally get to shout out players who aren't in these major fragging positions, so I think in that round especially, or in that game, sorry, I'll probably give it over to Dowie for me.
Personally, I think I'd give it to Harris. I think on the Valkyrie, he provided quite a lot of value. I think he was able to get some good rotates, especially there was one round where he rotated the entire way across the map, it felt like, and just get a lot of value that way. But I think, again, like we kind of commented on it at the end, it was very consistent across a lot of the players in this game. So it's really hard to just pick out one person who was the shining beacon for either team, really. But I think I'd give it to Harris.
Ooh, well, let's have a look what we thought, as we do have the Twitter vote for your man of the match. Of course, you've had a little bit of a debate here of who we're representing, but who are you going to be voting for? Head on over to Twitter at ESL UK and let us know. Something to take into consideration as well is we now have the information of the standings based off this game. So we do know that Fierce is now confirmed second after this draw.
That's a bit of a heartbreak, isn't it, if you're Demise, knowing you were literally a round away from not having to go and fight off in this bracket. But the good news for Demise, bad news for Audacity, is that it is third versus sixth in that. So I think as things stand, there is literally no way that Kavana or Randy's or even Audacity can get enough points to be able to knock them down into that spot. The only upset potential here is that if Audacity win their game and Randy's lose, I believe Randy's might find themselves falling down into that sixth spot. And then, well, that's when chaos ensues.
I mean, there's always the chance that Demise could end up facing off Fierce again at some point if the playoffs go that way. So, you know.
I want it. I want a best of three between those boys.
Yeah. That's where they can come back and actually get their revenge.
Oh yeah, everything is shaping up for hopefully some really exhilarating playoffs a little bit later on. Of course, in today's show, though, there is still more to come. Up next is going to be Crazy versing off Randy's. For Crazy, it's just a matter of can they continue with this undefeated streak. Now, before we take a break for this one, do you think they have a chance? Is this going to be a full undefeated season, or will the Randy boys be able to make a little bit of noise?
If Randy's have any game in them to upset, shock, and surprise the viewing public, this is the game to do it in. But I think with the way Crazy are playing so far, there is like a 99.9% chance they win this game. If they don't win, they must have really messed up something catastrophic.
Crazy are gonna win. It wouldn't shock me if Randy's take at least a couple of rounds, especially as we saw Audacity take a couple of rounds against Crazy yesterday. I think if Audacity can, Randy's definitely can, especially with the craziness they like to bring out in their compositions.
Yeah, they thrive in the chaos. Crazy will be going up versus Randy's after the break. For now, though, go get yourself some water, get hydrated, and we'll be back with some more Rainbow Six after these messages.
And watch.
Howdy gamers, and welcome back to the Rainbow Six Siege Premiership, where we'll be crusading on throughout the rest of the games we have available to us today. Tonight we step into what could be the flawless final killing blow for Crazy, or potentially the upset of the season for the Randys. But obviously, that's all just speculation, as in reality, you've got to give this one to Crazy. After the season they've played, they've looked so dominant. Would you two agree?
Yeah. There's
I like
more
how
explanation than that, really.
You just straight, I was like, you know, it could be this, but come on, this guy's gonna win. I agree with you.
If you look at the hard-hitting facts and journalism, Gio, which is what we love here at the Prem, that's where you've got to put your stock.
Yeah.
That's what we're about, facts.
Yeah, no, I mean, I totally agree with you. I think that this is definitely going to go to Crazy. They've been such a dominant force in the season so far. They are completely undefeated. And Randy's, you know, while they've had some good moments, they've also had some not so good moments. They haven't been a particularly moving force of all the teams. And I think that Crazy just have this one.
Yeah, obviously everyone's probably going to be firmly in the camp of Crazy. We'll see when we get to that Twitter poll a little bit later on, as I assume that will probably provide us some very exhilarating insight. For now, though, let's step a little bit deeper into the actual team rosters and start to dissect these two teams before this game gets underway. For the both of you, obviously starting with you, Des, who are you looking at as your key standouts here in what is going to be quite an exciting game?
Hey, No Thumbs is back. My boy, he's the man I'm probably looking out for most of all. My boy.
He's lost his thumbs, though.
Yeah, he has lost his thumbs, mate. But apparently he found them in the off-season because he came back and fragged quite a bit. Now, Keenan got triggered yesterday when I called No Thumbs their star player. You know what? He is their star player. Has the best game of the team. What are you going to say? On the other side, though, the problem is with Crazy. Every single player has had a massive contribution so far this season. That's been the big fragger for them. I think he's in the top 3 for total kills so far this season. All of them, though, are moving as one big cohesive unit. The recent addition of Madman is really adding an element to their play, which they'll tell you themselves was missing before. They're now a little bit more dynamic. They can play a little bit more aggressive and on the fly, rather than having to commit to their kind of pre-agreed strategy, which really meant the players were quite rigid in the way that they played. And as a team that's made it into CL, I think all eyes are on them here to go through and storm and win the entirety of the Premiership. And Randy to them will just be a pebble in the road that they need to kind of see past to carry on towards victory.
Yeah, I do think that you could put on a blindfold, have a spinning dartboard with all of the names of the players on Crazy, throw a dart, saying this person's gonna stand out in this map, and it doesn't really matter where it lands because that player is still gonna stand out in this map. All 5 of them do incredibly well, and I think that's going to be the thing that's going to overwhelm Randy's today, because yes, Randy's do have great players. No Thumbs is one of them. Weston, when he pops off, does absolutely fantastically. JTC as well, he plays a lot of their entry. Those players can be great, but are they always consistently great? Are all 5 of them always doing as much as the players on Crazy are, including the amount of strategy that's going on, the amount of droning, the amount of info sharing? No, they don't.
Well, the other potential outcome of that is you miss the dartboard entirely and instead land straight into the veto. So let's check that out and see where we are going to have this match go down and where our two teams will be facing off, as we do have the autobans course coming through for Consulate and Border as we start to dissect this one.
Well, no spoiler, we don't actually know which one this is going to. So this could be an interesting one. I think on the side of Randy's, you want to force us into being a gunfight. If you're on the side of Crazy, you can go either way. You can say, you know what, want to play strategy, want to play serious, or no, you know what, let's show them we can frag out far better than they can. So I think quite up in the air in terms of where we can go. Consulate would have been my bet, but as you can see, that's also banned away, and Border is the go-to frag map. That's gone as well, so maybe something like Coastlines on the board.
I mean, you say you don't know what map we're going to. I actually do. But what I have written down in I know, right? What I've written down in my notes is Crazy would probably prefer the fragging maps, and the reason being is they want to hide a lot of their strategies that they have for the upcoming Challenger League, and that's pretty much what they've been doing for the entirety of the season thus far. Now, Randy's have actually avoided Coastlines so far in the season. The question is that because they don't want to play it because they're bad at it, or is that because they want to save it for later? I think if you do go to Coastline against Crazy, you are sort of walking into a pit of fire and flames, and it's going to be very difficult. But Bank and Cafe both are gone. So just a couple more bans to go to see where it is we're going to be headed.
I'm sorry, Drew, but I kind of switched off as soon as you said, "Oh, are you saving this map for later in the season?" I was like, Randy's and saving strats, saving maps, saving anything just is not a thing.
I know that, but you've got to, try and give credit where there might not be any.
Fair
Well,
enough.
coastline, that's where we're going.
Okay.
So,
yeah, that was really out of the
we
four
will
that were
find
left.
out.
It is the most frag heavy of the four that are left, I think. So I think in the shoes of Randy's here, you're happy, but equally in the shoes of Crazy, you're very happy. As Gia said, they played it quite a few times, so why would they be uncomfortable?
Well, we do love to be beside the seaside, so hopefully we will see who is going to be coming out on top with this one. I can't,
so
mate.
bad.
It's built into my blood. It's just how I operate as a human, or at least an AI designed to talk about dad jokes. Des, primarily though, who is your stock invest into? There's been a lot of debate about Crazy. Is there any chance? Are you feeling the upset? Is today the day that Randy's just go absolutely wild, or is this going to be more of the norm?
No chance. Eminem, back when they were called that, beat Secret 7-2 on this map. Crazy beat Fear 7-1 on it last week. This is their map. They have beat two of the top teams in dominating fashion, dropping only 3 rounds. If they lose this, it is a enormous upset, and you have to be asking questions of why.
Yeah, you really took the words out of my mouth. I was going to cite those same score lines that we have seen, and they're just so they're kind of written in blood at this point, and I think that blood is going to be that of the players of Randy's.
No one fancied a draw.
No draws today, and pretty much everyone going to the Crazy side. So the madness has spread. Everyone is riled up, and there is a lot of support, which, as both of you have basically confirmed, does seem to be the census. Is there any possibility for Randy's? Obviously, we know it's more of essentially their approach to the game is to live in the chaos. They'll try and be a bit more unorthodox because that's what they do. Yesterday, it didn't seem too fantastic for them. Obviously, a lot of the trades were letting them down. The setups weren't fantastic. Can they counter that this evening?
Nah. I love a lot of the boys, to be fair, on Randy's. I like them as guys. They're all pretty cool and chill to talk to. But you're coming up against a Challenger League team here who's beating everyone else inside the Prem. Chances the way this is going to go, definitely not towards Randy's.
Yeah, I think, yes, Randy's played a lot of those unorthodox strats, and they are really exciting, and I do really want to see some more of them today, because at this point, it's sort of like, well, they probably know that they're not going to be winning out this map, so they might as well try some interesting things, but a lot of them were very two-dimensional strategies that were very easily countered with minimal effort from their opponent, so I don't think that's going to do all that much. Again, it would shock me if it were a 7-0. I do expect Randy's to take at least a round, but I don't think there's much of a chance that they're going to take 7.
Well, let's find out. We're stepping into Coastline. Make some noise for the Randy boys as they face off versus Crazy. Des and Gio, take it away.
Thank you very much for the final time. For the second time this evening, I should say the final one would be that next game, Gio. Getting ahead of myself very clearly. Coastline is where we're headed, as we said. So, we have been pretty harsh and intense. I am Randy's there. My reputation is on the line. If Randy's come ahead and win this one, well, I shall go and hide under a rock and isolate myself for 2 weeks. Not that I'm already doing that already, but that will be the plan.
Self-isolation, kids.
That's
Remember
the plan.
if you can.
If I'm wrong, I will self-isolate. Wow, I'm already doing that. Wow, what a world we live in. Wow. Okay, let's get these bans underway then and see.
Such a morally upstanding citizen.
You know it. So let's see how these bans come through then. Starting things off, okay. Randy's doing the Randy's things. Okay, no comment.
This is not the first time they've done this. They did ban Oryx yesterday. They clearly just, I don't know. Do you think they find it funny? Is that what this is? Do you find it funny?
We know what's coming next. Capital Mirror, right?
Mirror,
always the way we crazy.
Of course.
So we've just come across a potentially broadcast breaking issue here. The stream will shut off. Everything will die. Production do not have the icon for Iana. We are all screwed, guys. We're super sorry. You can blame the Randys for this one.
I wonder if this will be Oryx this time. If they're just gonna go complete chaos.
If they really want to. Ban Valk, please. Nah,
no,
it's
they're
Jaeger.
banning Jaeger. Okay.
I like it, right? Jaeger has the highest appearance out of any operator in the game because he's very rarely banned, but is pretty much always picked by teams because those ADSs are just so useful. Him being banned here, going to be a little bit more difficult, and Nathan is correct. They bottled the
Oryx ban. Well, going to be starting things off on Hooker and Billiards, it looks like. Yesterday on Coastline, the first site we saw was kitchen, and look who's being brought out, my dear darling Derry. It is Tachanka.
It is the Chanka. Bring out the chunky Chanka. He's going to be on the field. I'm very curious to see where they use him. We've seen teams employ him before inside of Aqua. You reinforce the hatch, stick him on top of that, electrify it, basically do everything to stop him getting removed from that corner of the room. And unless you've got a wonderful grenade shot, well, chances are he is not going to be going down from there. But knowing the way Randy's used Chanka yesterday, that will not be the purpose that they have in mind.
No, they tried to. Well, they did a round. So they were playing on Consulate. They did a round where they had him up on the top floor, looking down the hallway. Didn't really last very long. Then the following round, they had him in lobby, being protected by Clash. Again, didn't last very long as Kayak on the Buck was able to rotate around and just come and shoot him from behind, which not really a particularly 300 IQ strategy. They just kind of walked to the other side of the map. So whether or not this Tachanka will get value remains to be seen. But judging by his track record so far, not entirely sure that's going to happen. We did also see the Cav yesterday, but we saw Penguin playing the Cav, I believe. So JTC on the Cav, going to be interesting. Once again, another operator that they didn't get all that much value out of before.
No.
So don't really have high hopes, but I'm intrigued.
There's a lot of cheese on the side of Randy's right now, and if Jackie was still here, he'd be screaming about Gorgonzola yesterday and how we ignored it for the most part. But you've got the Vigil, you've got the Kavira, you've got the Chanka on side, you've got Western on the dock for those longer range shots if he really wants to be playing down that ACOG. The only sense of normality they've really got is no thumbs on the Valkyrie, and that's because the cameras are so useful on this map. Especially thrown outside, you can just see all the movements that are going on. You can go for spawn peaks if you really want to. That's exactly what you see in someone like Nathan being brought along on the Nomad. Just saying, you know what, you want to jump out, you're more than welcome to try, but we've got these windows covered.
Well, already Western going to be bringing down Nathan. So the first casualty is going to be on the side of Crazy. You can almost hear the members of Randy's laughing, knowing exactly what their composition, what this cheese is like, and that they were able to bring down that first member. And of course, getting rid of that Nomad's pretty huge. Packball also going to be falling, and already this round looks like it's airing on the side of Randy's.
I mean, there's 4 frag grenades on the side of Crazy here. I'm surprised I haven't heard so many come through, given there is a Jaeger ban here as well. You should be raining those into every spot of the map that you can, especially if you've got drones leading you in to find out who is where. Dats is going to start the fragging off, not so much early, but halfway into this round for Keenan, bringing down 1. And there we go. The interrogation's in, boys and girls. JTC finds 1, and this is where you'll see a bit of panic from the members of Crazy, but still manages to find a kill. And in fact, that's not how this is really meant to work. They will not probably find themselves another kill. Goes for a spray through the wall. Not to be found, and that'll let that one time out there. But it's a moment of pause before the action resumes. Now 3 versus 2 in favor of Randy's.
Yeah, it did look like that dog was maybe going to be going down, but he was able to heal himself back up. And now just 2 members left for Crazy, with Madman being incredibly low health and a very prime target. 1 minute left of the round, and the Valkyrie is going to be falling. Penguin following as well. That's absolutely disgusting player, frequently getting the most frags for this team. But now he and Madman combined don't even have, what, 50, 100 HP? This could be dangerous, but Crazy are going to be winning out the round.
That's all down to Dats as well. Huge round for him on the Ash there. In fact, probably a fun little fact for you to know. I think he had about 9,000 hours on CSGO before he moved over to Siege, so you would expect him to be up there with the fraggers in this game. Definitely making himself known in round number 1. So, a good attempt at the very least by the Randys. Again, with there being no Jaeger, bringing 4 frag grenades made sense, but the opening kills only came the way of Randys. They were the ones getting, I think, into somewhat uncomfortable positions that Crazy weren't expecting. And while you saw what happened, the kills just started raining across one after the other. Even an interrogate coming through, albeit that didn't really work in favor of the Randys in the end.
Looking like Randy's are going to be 6-picking off the Warden, going to the Echo, and seeing the Nook come out from Crazy instead of the Zafir. So they want to be playing a little bit sneaky here. Evidently, they don't entirely know what to expect from Randy's, and that's really what this team have going for them, is the fact that they are likely to bring out these kind of strange, unorthodox compositions, and that makes it a lot harder to predict for the side of Crazy what's going on. They do have to rely on that gun skill a lot, and that's something they've been doing a lot in this season so far, is relying on gun skill, not going too strategic. They've been coming to these maps where that is what is the heavy hitter, but this is really going to put them to the test.
10 seconds left.
Put to the test they must. I like how even we're seeing Nathan with a bit of a switch over to the Nook. only on the basis of teams who rely on intel are going to get caught so hard by this one. And what have Randy's moved towards this round? A lot of intel. The Echo, the Valkyrie, and the Mozzie all together. Does, of course, require catching a couple of drones, which we shouldn't really see Crazy giving away so freely. Have already lost one. Pretty sure it wasn't caught, but time will tell. And once more, it's Penguin on the Chanker. Well, I'm wondering when he's going to give this one up. Genuinely wondering when.
It's a comfort pick, isn't it? It's like, it's his guilty pleasure. He's enjoying it. This is Crazy. They're not going to beat him out. I mean, even when they were playing against teams that weren't Crazy, he still enjoyed bringing it. And sometimes, if a player just really enjoys it, you just got to let him. You just got to let him do it. Now, can he get this shot? He knows exactly where that player is, but doesn't look quite like it's going to happen. Valkyrie also joining him up there. I was concerned whether maybe he was going to accidentally shoot her, but it looks like she's going to be fine for now. But Penguin is not falling at the window and once again not providing quite as much value to the team as he would like, and he will be the first death.
Always that fear you have if you leave that courtyard wall open as well. There's so much that can be done by the attackers, and Dats once again is popping so far in this game. Now it's his 6th kill, I believe. Yep, 6-0 in the first 2 rounds, and still has the opportunity to go on a bit of a tear here onto towards the remaining members. It is into a 4 versus 3, so advantage Crazy. Last time around, they still managed to pull things back despite being a man down. No Thumbs will step up. Star player, by the way, steps up and catches out onto Patball right here. Keenan gets one onto Madman. So suddenly things are starting to come up for them, but then it's suddenly a swing through. I believe there are a couple of members down. Madman finding that final kill will close things out for them.
Nathan getting a couple kills there as well, and he has been in that team chat saying, don't give this guy MVP, so you know, if he can keep this up, maybe he'll be the one earning it this time. But for now, no luck really going on for Randy's. They're going to be returning back to the same site. Maybe this is just how this game is now. Like, this is not a 4-site map anymore. This is just a 1-site map. Alibi, Maestro, gonna be coming together and keeping the Ella and the Echo. Oh no, they're not gonna keep the Echo. My bad.
Interesting.
Actually, I love this. The Crazy are also shaking things up. They've decided, all right, if you're going to play a different game, we're going to play a different game as well. So the Glaz and the Blackbeard are going to be joining on with the IQ, Ash, and Nook.
Well, I find it quite funny that it's devolved into chaos. This is the meme game of Siege. If you want to see what happens when 2 teams just completely lose the plot, here is the answer.
What is going on here?
They've all just bought shotguns, and except for Doc, of course, and just thought, you know what, open up everything. Let's go for a real peak fest here. There is only one team this favours, and that is Crazy, with both the Blackbeard and the Glaz on side.
Oh my
God. Okay, boys.
It's just the particle effects. Like, someone's graphics card is gonna die at some point because it just.
Is that the test? Are they stress testing the game? Do you reckon?
That's exactly what. Someone's got a new PC. They need to stress test their graphics card. They didn't download the right program. They might as well do it now. Like, that's exactly what is happening here. It's just so loud. I'm gonna have a headache.
Guys, please carry on.
I love it. I'm loving this.
Oh, there it is. Pistol as well. I tell you what, you might ban it. It's actually nice to ban the last game, not in this one. But that was just a pistol run around there. Beautiful stuff with the bailiff from Penguin.
Oh, you know what this feels like? It feels like on the last day of school of the term where you don't do real lessons.
Oh my God.
You just kind of chill out. Another pistol shot there onto Madman. Now we're seeing the Nook try and walk in. Does get that shot. Keenan and JTC both going to be falling. Weston has stimmed himself up. And now it is a 3 versus... Well, I spoke too soon. It's not a 3 versus 3. It's a 3 versus 2. Randy's evidently agreed to not play with their primary weapons here.
Oh my God, please. That's Penguin with the triple kill on pistols alone.
If only people had known at the beginning of the season that the way to beat Crazy was to just play with your secondary weapon.
He gets 4 kills.
Because the fact that this turned out, yeah, Penguin MVP. I'm down for that.
Fair enough. Right.
I'm calling it now.
Let's get him in the mix. He deserves it for that alone.
Oh my goodness. And this is where you'd, insert analysis here. But what even is there to analyze from that? Chaos.
Well, normal stuff for the Randy. They're like, oh, this is just like my normal day.
Going to a different site this time.
After they won.
Well, yeah. But I just mean it's exciting. Frost, that is an unranked operator if ever I saw one.
Yeah, I like
It
her
will
ranked.
will be funny. It will be funny to see that work
The,
out.
the nice thing about Frost is when you know that there's a mat in front of a window, unless you can clear it out before you jump through a window, the first thing you have to do is look downwards and spray. So someone can just sit and watch the angle or watch the window where you'll be jumping in from. They know full well that they can't look at you or else they die. So just sit there and wait. They can't afford to fight you. You get a free kill. It's so easy. It's absolute bait. So if Keenan wants to get himself some more kills on the board so he isn't getting left behind by Penguin, by JTC, this is the way to do it.
I feel like you worded that how you did because you know that he's going to come at you on Twitter.
I mean, he's more than welcome to.
Yeah,
he's got no
that
excuses
he's going to
now.
listen to it and he's going to get riled by it. And you're sitting here casting and he's still got to prove his worth.
10 seconds left.
Yeah, I'm not sleeping tonight with these sounds ringing around my skull. I don't think I agree with you.
Yeah, it's
Attackers are heading
definitely
out to the bomb.
not something I'm
Attackers
going to
drop the
forget
bomb
anytime
diffuser.
soon. I'm going to walk away from the cast. I'm going to go make some dinner. And in my head, it's just going to be
Defender has left the
gunshots.
designated
Oh,
stage.
God, here we go.
Or is he going for
Defender
another
has
run
been
out? No.
discovered.
See, I'm surprised he's not going maximum bait here and actually throwing one of the decoys outside because it just constantly pings you. The enemy is found outside. What a grenade, almost
Ooh.
catching him out. That was almost so well
Like
timed.
landed on his shoulder.
The expectation was there, but not quite to be. And to try and shut down the craziness, what a crazy done. They brought along the Lion. Nathan's going to find no thumbs there. The first kill going down will be the Ella.
It's a good job that he was even able to get that kill. He's such low health that it could be that he doesn't last all that much longer. Especially if this craziness does continue on. And there we go. He's going to be falling to Penguin. But
Oh, dear.
bleeding out here. Packball gets that kill. And it's just the shotguns coming out. It's all the craziness. There's Packball falling as well. Constant trades here. And it's a 3 versus 3. And at this point, I don't even know which way to call it.
Help me. Please.
Yeah.
Somebody. Well, Darts is definitely the savior so far, bringing down Western. It's a 3 versus 2. Grenade's going to rain in, but not quite going to find a kill. That desk is the MVP for JTC. He still sat nice and close, though, just waiting with the shotgun, daring to push around, but it's just not going to be the case. Pistol out, boys, trying to see what he can find.
Defender is exposed.
No joy from this one. So, a moment of bliss halfway into the round.
Yeah, it was the
Ooh,
calm
good night.
before the storm, potentially. Well, yeah, as you say, headshot there onto JTC. Jonka is going to be bleeding out, so it's technically a 2 versus 1. But, oh, there's the, that's why he's been out. Stuck in that frost trap. And Keenan just looking to push forward. But the diffuser is going down, and so in reality, this is actually going to be incredibly difficult for him to do. All the craziness has ensued. It's been fun, but now he actually has an objective to play for. Or not.
Yeah, nice try. I think I agree. I guess. If pistols
yeah.
and shotguns are your jam.
It's like, you know, you have all the gunfight fun, but once that diffuser goes down, it's like, oh, actually, I've actually got to deal with that. Ooh, I like this site. Why not?
You and no one else, apparently.
No, I'm not saying I like it. I'm saying I like it in the context of this game. Because why
By
not?
which you mean you do like it. Just in the context of the game.
All right, sure. You know what? Yeah, sure. Fine.
It's an
Whatever.
interesting site. It is very rarely played. No, I think we see it a little bit in LATAM, but barely anywhere else. And of course, if you see it in the depths of bronze and everything else, then yes, understandable. A lot of players do really like playing it inside of ranked, but I think inside comp, just not a thing. That massive double window really makes it impossible to actually play on site itself. A lot of walls that can be opened up around this site as well, inside of theatre, inside of actual bedroom itself. Can I? Okay, I'm just going to sit and listen for a minute because I can't even hear myself think.
Yeah. I mean, we did see Penthouse get played yesterday, and that's where we saw all those crazy rotations come out. That was between Enclave and Kovana, but it certainly wasn't anything quite like this. I'm really hoping that the viewers can actually hear the casting. Maybe they just prefer the gun. This is ASMR.
This is not ASMR. This is
No, it's
destruction,
not.
destruction of my eardrums and destruction of the floors of the site. Everything has been opened up. So if you ever wanted to know what a coastline looked like with no flooring on the top floor, here's your answer.
Is this before they finished building this building and they hadn't put the floor panels down yet? This is the construction that wakes you up at 7 a.m. every morning when you're getting ready to go for work.
No wooden panel was left unturned.
I love that it seems easier to destroy the floor than it does to destroy the rug on it.
Yeah, very true.
Attackers have located a bomb.
I mean, bullets might just go straight through a rug, but a floor just kind of gets splintered and shattered because it's quite
Brittle?
firm. Brittle's the word I was after. I was thinking, God, GCSE physics come back to me.
Oh, yeah. I went I went a little bit past GCSE physics, and yeah, I couldn't take 1 away from 3 yesterday, so it happens. Western first 1 to fall. Crazy do have an advantage here, but all they need to do is play downstairs really and just shoot on up through that very open skylight that's now been opened between the 2 floors.
I don't mind it. I don't hate it. It's just a pistol game from below, which we're going to see played out once again by Randy's now. And Crazy have got to adapt with the times because that's 2 kills coming across so far in this round, bringing things into a 3 versus 3. Dats, I hope you've got your carry pants on, my dude, because you're going to have to step up again in this game if you're not careful. Madman finds himself tagged down as well. There's Dats getting Keenan. Now it's a 2 versus 2, and No Thumbs is tucked away very safely here inside the corner of service entrance, just daring someone to step inside that vision line. But so far, no one wants to, and there's Dats again on that top floor. He will find a kill. I did say those carry pants need to come out for him, but it wasn't quite him, sorry. It was Jonker. That's 2 kills for him in this round. So, this is advantage to them, but they've got to find this kill. They've even seen the ping come through here. If they land this, swear down, I'll cry. No.
Not going to be able to get it.
You tried. The bet is safe.
So,
Need to protect the diffuser. Position
he's going to have to play for the retake. The question is whether he'll even be able to get up there, if he's just going to go for the kills before that happens. Stun grenade comes down, but it's not actually going to affect No Thumbs here. And right now, he just can't get on the angle to bring down his enemy. We did just see a drop down from another member of Crazy. So his crossfire is going to be pretty crazy, and that's going to lead them to win out the round. And I'll tell you what, Des, what it feels like is, you know, in some games where there's like a big modding community and they make their own game types, it feels like it's, you know, here's this Rainbow Six mod where all of the floors are open and you can only play with pistols and that's it. You know, the people just play for fun. That's what it feels like, a modding game.
I think what they're expecting coming into this game is they're playing the new Golden Gun game mode. That's what it looks like. They're trying to make these pistols work for them, but just can't do it.
They're getting some kills, which is something, I guess. But yeah, they're not really being able to win out these rounds. I mean, I did say at the beginning that I do expect them to take at least 1 round, which they have done. So I can sleep easy tonight.
Well, let's see if they can at least find a second round here on the defensive half. It is currently sat at 4-1, and the shotgun ensues once again. Wonderful.
I mean, what do you expect at this point?
I thought Alex had turned it down for a second then, but then it got louder again when he came back down to them.
No, yeah, that was just going up onto the top story. You got debated, my friend. Oh, man. Yeah, there we go. Off to the other side of the map where we might not be able to hear it so much, where we can finally get some peace and tranquility. Is this what it's like to have kids? You know when, like, people complain about the noise, they just want 5 minutes away from it all, but you can still hear it? I feel like this is what it must be like.
5 seconds to insertion.
Well, I'm glad that Alex has graced our ears with a bit of a moment of silence, looking over the serene beach, the wonderful palm trees, and inside. The party's indoors, guys. That's the most important thing to remember in all of this.
I guess if you want to live that hedonistic lifestyle, this is how to do it. And Nathan's not going to be joining in. He's going to be falling as the first casualty to Penguin, and Keenan's going to be following things up with a headshot onto Jonker.
Okay, that happened. I'm out of ideas now, Gio. Sorry.
Yeah, no. You and me both. I feel like it's descended into delirium, and I feel like it's contagious and it's affecting me too.
Fair enough.
Apparently it was a misclick.
Okay, then I've heard that before.
Yeah. As if any of this is intentionally done. Well, I mean, it is, and that's kind of what makes it worse. At least you can say you probably haven't casted a round of Coastline quite like this before.
I haven't casted a round where like pretty much every wall has been opened up that is anywhere near the site. Yeah,
exactly. It's a unique experience.
And that is what Randy's aims to deliver. Entertainment and entertainment it is. Keenan finds a double kill. That's gone down. We mentioned earlier on one of the players you're looking towards in these rounds especially to bring order to the chaos and find some kills. Not quite to be the case. And Weston's even looking to cause some chaos still on the vigil. Yes, Stats, you're right. It is really odd.
At least we got some nice music. Just to aid us while we're watching this peek being taken from Keenan. Question is he going to be able to get it? He is going up against an ACOG, and he is holding a pistol. So it is a little bit of an uneven battle. There's the angle being taken, but nothing quite working out. In comes the nade. Packball's going to be falling in the meantime.
Wait, Madman? You guys are planning off here?
Oh.
No way.
Attackers activating diffuser.
I did not
Okay.
even notice that happening. I was too preoccupied with these high-octane gunfights, but now Weston and Keenan have got work to do. But Madman is so low HP, this could actually be a retake that works out for them.
It could be, but this is quite a bit of work to do, I think, still, especially if you don't know where he is right now. And he's got both drones active and on the field, so he can have his team just giving him call-outs right now. He hasn't got to worry. Oh, he gets one tap through the window. Didn't even know he's down. They must know he's down because Weston's going for the defuse right now by the looks of things. There we go. He's going to stick it out, and they will at least get a second round in the defensive half. I'll call this the half of chaos because that is all it's been.
I totally agree. I'm actually really interested to see how Crazy decide to approach their own defensive round, if they're going to take it really seriously or if they're going to try and outdo these crazy plays that we've seen come out from Randy's.
I guarantee you, more craziness is to follow.
I think even if Crazy
They're gonna do Nomad, surely. They're going for Nomad? Oh no, they're asking where he got the tag from. Fair enough, yeah. Blue bar window.
I think even if Crazy don't set up something crazy for themselves, we will see Randy's come in and cause that chaos. That's the thing with entropy, is when you put it anywhere, it's only going to grow. You can't stop it from happening. So there's only so much they can do to try and control and withhold what it is that Randy's decide to bring.
Sounds almost like you're speaking about the coronavirus right there.
Oh wow, no, I really wasn't actually, but if you want to bring it up.
We're on about not being able to control things. It's very relevant, topical.
I was thinking more because I mentioned entropy, and that's physics, and that really is kind of my area of expertise if I am to have one at all.
Fair. Triple C4 setup coming out for Crazy. We saw Fierce using this quite a lot on the last map. Why would you not want to bring C4s on a map that has so much soft flooring? But, of course, this means they need control on the downstairs. So for that purpose, why wouldn't you bring along something like Nathan on the Mozzie, as well as Jonka and that Vigil? So a lot of focus, I expect, going into holding out on the downstairs here, and rightly so. Both of them are on the downstairs right now. Just going to see what damage they can do early on and try and put a dent in Randy's plans before they come to life.
Well, in come the attackers, and I'm not sure I'm prepared for whatever chaos it is they're going to bring. Ash shooting out that camera nice and early. Always remember to do that. Yesterday we did see a couple of examples of that not being done, and it was pretty disastrous. Breaching rounds being thrown on in. Not gonna get anyone, but it is gonna set that room on fire.
At least for now, that will waste a bit of time, but he didn't expect him being right at the doorway there. Madman was waiting and ready, giving them a bit of a taste of their own medicine with a TCSG to the face. However, very suddenly, Madman finds himself very alone on the top floor as 3 members have been cleared out. And all that's left now is Dats holding down on Cool Vibes right here, trying to make some magic happen, but he's going to have to rotate himself away. Madman finds his second of the round, and at least some semblance of balance is restored. It's a 3 versus 2. A lot of the drones have disappeared for Crazy, but it doesn't really matter. Sorry, for Randy's, I should say. Down to the final one. Dats is all by himself, and there we go. That kill comes through. There's another one down there as well. Dats wins this one for them. It could be big, and he will win it there. The Clutch Master once again steps in and takes round number 7.
And of course, joining in with what Randy's have been setting and using his pistol for those last 2 kills. That's what you love to see. But really, if you've got someone flanking around, someone roaming around who can get around quickly, going to provide that pressure, you don't want it to be Dats, because that's pretty scary to go up against. So now heading into this next round, they are going to be moving on to Kitchen. And this time they will themselves be bringing the Ella and the Alibi, which we did see come out from Randy's. Now, Randy's bringing the Amaru. Interesting, because they really messed up on the Amaru yesterday. They just...
Yeah.
What would you call it? Repelling? They used her spidey senses
To be fair, there is... For the gadget, I can't remember what it's called, but yes, for all intents and purposes, she repelled into the window and died inside of about a second.
Straight away from the Goyo, who was standing right there. But they have brought their special favorite, the Montagna.
Well, see, you say special favorite. At least it's not Keenan playing it because he was going a bit mental and a bit loopy after playing it so often. At least now that duty's been put onto JTC instead. The interesting thing about this, and there is, I guarantee you, at least some interesting points in the chaos that has been this match so far, is how we're going to see Crazy deal with it. We've seen teams like Audacity really struggle to deal with the Monty multiple rounds in a row, just not having an answer to it. And Randy's just fully took advantage of that. Crazy should be the kind of team who are more than capable of dealing with it.
5 seconds remaining.
Well, couple of seconds until they are let loose out of their cages and allowed to run on in. Now, Crazy getting very, very close to winning this out. Of course, they have to win the next 2 rounds if they are to decisively win. But if they do win this round, then the worst they can do is a draw, and Randy's will have a lot of work to do to catch up with that. So far, not seeing Keenan rush in on the Amaru like we did yesterday, playing a little bit more reserved, if that's what you can call it. But I am sure we are yet to see all of the shenanigans that he will bring out as he follows the Monty in.
Very fearful of someone doing a run out from lobby there, as you probably would come to expect on an assault like this. So just taking a bit of extra care to watch that angle in case they do go a little bit nuts. Now, Dats is going to bring down the Jackal, which should give them a lot more freedom here to feel more comfortable in what they're doing. And rightly so, Jonka is above on this window right now, just waiting for the call out to say, go for it. He's not looking. That could be a free Monty kill if you are quick enough. But it's all about the patience game out here, finding the right time when the Monty is exposed, not being covered by his teammates to make this work for them. And that timing is not right now, apparently.
Jonka just trying to hold this angle through the theater floor down into main lobby. So far, not seeing anything. We are starting to hear some of that gunfire, but you can still see the Monty is downstairs. There goes one of the drones. Looks like Randy's are just trying to decide which direction in which to start traveling. All right, Monty's come upstairs now. They've decided they're just going to go aggressive up here instead of wasting their time downstairs. So where they can... Oh, no, he's jumping down again. All right, he's just going round and round.
Oh, they managed to make this work, actually finding themselves another kill here. So Perseverance has paid off for the Randys. Down to 1 minute and 10 seconds remaining. There comes the jump out that window. They were not ready, and Nathan strikes fast. That brings down both JTC and Keenan. There is one man left alive. His name is Weston. Finds himself 2 kills there. Don't, please, stop. I know it's an LMG, buddy. It can stop firing at some point. Or not, I guess. Sure. He can carry on if he really wants to. He's stopped now. He's still got a bit of utility left. He is in a 1 versus 2, and you are up against Dats, who, as I mentioned already a couple of times, has done quite a lot of work for his team on this map. 14-2. The guy's a monster.
Yeah. And I mean, Nathan as well has been playing pretty damn good. So it is a bit concerning that C4 is still also being held onto by the Valkyrie. So Weston is in a difficult position. He's not going to win out. He barely even manages to touch the trigger before Crazy take the round. So now all they have to do is win out this next round, and this will be a 1 series for Crazy.
Absolutely. Just one more round and the craziness has collapsed. It's the irony that it's the team that's not called Crazy bringing the actual genuine craziness right now in the form of Randy's. But at 6-2, this is kind of how we expected the map to go. Well, we expected the scoreline. We didn't expect the journey that got us to this scoreline so far, admittedly. No, but it's ending wild. At 6-2 or like 7-2 or 7-3, sorry. That's the kind of outcome I think we'd expect to see.
So it looks like we're going to be seeing something that we saw yesterday, and that is pairing up the line with the Docker B so that you can have all of that information as to where the defensive team are. Mozzie going to be switched out for the alibi, so a little bit less pressure on the roam in the same way that they would have otherwise had. And the Jackal as well actually should add, it's just going to add that key trio with the Lion, the Doc B, and the Jackal. It's just going to give Randy's everything they need to know exactly who is playing on the side of Crazy and where they are situated.
It's just gross. This whole setup is just disgusting coming out of Randy's because we mentioned it yesterday and we saw it a couple of times. It's just the fact that it can isolate one member very easily, not let you move, not let you go silently, let you get caught out by the Jackal. You're basically dead if they find out where you are. On the other side of things, there is a lot being brought by these guys that is playing around that Roman sort of game. You can have Mabin on this alibi looking to rotate around the map and make some things happen by himself because the Storm, believe it or not, is a pretty good gun on a 3-speed nonetheless. It's been really interesting seeing how things have played out with the Jaeger being banned away, that we've seen teams, both teams adapting and playing around it differently. Randy's arguably the word adapting is maybe a little bit kind, but both teams have had to do different things here than what you might come to expect.
Well, in they come, and straight away, the logic bomb is going to be pressed. Whether or not they're going to get anything out of it at this point, well, Nathan is going to be headshotted into the ground, but things are going to be turned around onto JTC. Out comes the Inox, but nothing of yet. So right now, just a 4 versus 4. Of course, going to be looking out for Jonker to be using that very key heartbeat sensor, provide that intel to the rest of his team. They want to be winning out this round so that they can definitively finish things off. Of course, Crazy are already guaranteed to be in the finals, but it's still nice to know that you were able to add that cherry on top of the cake of the main season, I should say. Drones going down, that's not good. No Thumbs has lost both of his already, with just Weston, Keenan, and Penguin having any remaining on the board.
Almost finding himself getting tagged down. They're pushing there as well. They surely must know that someone's playing quite close at this point, the other side of the wall to them. Not quite going to be in a position to find a kill. I think he was playing down behind the shield, in fact, here, but still in a pretty comfortable spot. They may not even be able to find their way inside of Sunrise itself because they're being held by 2 or 3 members. Keenan, what a one-tap there, though, onto Dats, taking him off the field. However, still a lot more work to do. 2 of them remaining here trying to push for Paul entrance. You're right, Dats. It was a really nice shot. But you got to deal with one who's playing off towards your right-hand side, one who's playing behind the bar itself, and one who's playing down inside a blue bar. So maybe this isn't quite the right angle to see a push come through from Randy's, and maybe their alternative should be to look towards Kitchen instead and pushing from that angle. In fact, that looks like exactly what No Thumbs has opted to do here on the Lion. And he's down.
Yeah, I was going to say the same thing. He has fallen down. That puts so much pressure here on Keenan. It's not going to be enough. Crazy are able to win out the round. They're able to win out the map. We already knew that they were winners of the main group stage, but they are winners of the craziest game of Rainbow Six Siege that has been seen, as particularly here in the UK, but potentially ever.
That's being honest. Really bad game. It wasn't a game. That wasn't a game of Siege. That was a game of arcade, a game of casual, whatever you want to call it.
That wasn't.
It was chaos. Oh, the star player going 4 and 8. This isn't the way that I envisioned this going. Keenan will be absolutely ecstatic. But that's 15 kills. That's the kind of stuff that you want someone to step up and kind of go, right, there's chaos all around. Let me settle this. I got it. And he did just that.
Des, do you remember at the start of the show when I said today is looking to be a bit of a bombastic affair? I'm pretty sure that game has hit the criteria.
Define bombastic.
Here we go. Go on, get it up. What's the thesaurus?
High sounding, but with little meaning, inflated.
There you go. I take it. It was quite an inflated scoreline to Crazy, and there was a lot of weird play from Randy's, all right? We've been able to somehow patch that together and make it work. Yeah, I mean, it was like watching an episode of DIY SOS for the most part. They were just tearing the walls down, but there wasn't much rebuilding. And then what? The first round was all about Penguin, the pistol punisher, who just went off on an absolute spree with his revolver, playing a bit of one in the chamber. Some madness, as you said, more akin to an arcade game than an actual matchup of competitive Siege.
Yeah.
But what were your takeaways for Crazy, at least?
Well, they aren't very good at fighting people who've only got pistols, apparently.
No.
Yeah, that's a weakness that teams in the future are probably going to bear in mind. Like, if all else fails, whip out your secondary weapon.
So the issue is they're so used to taking fights with actual primary firearms that they haven't built up their immunity to smaller bullets.
Apparently not. They really couldn't deal with it, actually. For a couple of rounds, it did surprise them, I think. And they were just like, what is this chaos? Everything is being opened up. All the normal rules of Siege being broken apart here. Reinforcements aren't going where you expect them to be. It can take a team that is very structured and coordinated. Maybe those that have got that as a leaning strength rather than strictly gunplay or mechanics. That's the kind of thing that can really leave you a bit unsettled. But I don't think that was really the intent going into it of Randy to try and unsettle them. It was just a, you know what? It sounds like fun. Let's open up the map and go for pistol-only kills. Fair effort, but at the end of the day, the team won that we all expected to.
Yeah, I mean, it was very fun. I feel like I was just kind of smiling the whole way through. I was super entertained, but you're right. It definitely took Crazy by surprise. But this isn't the first time that we've seen Crazy just have to warm up to a team's playstyle before they've been able to actually take on that dominance once again. It happened yesterday against Audacity, and they weren't even playing in this ridiculous way that we saw Randy's do today. But I don't know, Randy's just wanted fun. They knew that they weren't going to be winning out this game. They just wanted to play about, and I don't know, you don't know where it comes from, but like I've got my eye on Penguin as the guy who's kind of the bad influencer.
The
Oh my goodness.
instigator.
Yeah, potentially the madman at the helm. Who else were you looking at though as your star players in that match?
I think it's pretty fair to say 15 kills. Like, it's hard to call a star player because it's very hard to shine in a way that isn't just fragging out on a map like this. But that's for that reason alone, for me, getting 15 kills would be the star player for them as a result.
Yeah, I think I have to agree with that. And I feel like it's almost a boring answer because we know that Dats is a great fragger and we know that he can show up. And it was a sort of game where you, especially if you play on other roles, don't have much of an opportunity to show yourself off, because if your opponent is just playing like that, then that's a very difficult position to be in. So I think the fact that Dats was still able to hold his own, he still showed up, did very well. We kind of have to just give it to him by default, I think.
Yeah.
Well, let's have a look and see who our man of the match potential candidates are going to be. As I think I've got to give mine to the big neuter himself, Penguin, as he was stepping up that one pistol round. Of course, we're only kidding, just a little bit of a light-hearted joke, when in reality, we do have Dats, Madman, and Penguin. So you got a little bit of spice thrown in there in the end, but who would you go for out of our three guys before we throw it over to the guys at home to get involved?
Just give it to Penguin.
Yeah, all on Penguin?
I was
Pile
thinking
in, lads.
that earlier.
Penguin.
I was thinking, like, I kind of just want to give it to Penguin because a man who has this much influence, this much power, should not have this much power.
Where is at ESL UK? Get in there.
Do
We're
as
voting it
Des
up,
is
boys.
doing. Head on over to social media. That's at ESL UK on Twitter. Hit us up and vote for Penguin, or the rest of them if you want. But of course, we do know who the most impact truly came from, and it was the man that loves fish.
The man who loves fish. This is a good one. That's a really good one.
Not bad, Jackie. Not bad.
It's all right, mate. Look, see, the thing is, Des, I know you've not really been enjoying my dad jokes. And, you know, due to the quarantine, I think what I'll do from now on is I'll just start doing inside-only jokes. So sorry if you don't get them.
No, I don't mind the dad jokes, mate. It's just, it's been a long week.
It's been a long series. It wasn't
It's
even the
been a
longest
long
series.
game.
It's not
Gosh.
even the longest series we've had today so far, and it's still been a long series.
So, Jackie, carry on with the dad jokes because somewhere out there will be appreciating them as they deserve to be appreciated.
I don't even think you realise the elaborate ruse of a dad joke I just dropped on you. But let's get into the hard-hitting facts that we do have. Standings, they're up on screen for a very particular reason. Kavana Gaming have now been confirmed 4th off the back of the result from that game.
Yes. So as you can see, they can only gain 3 points for their next win. Randy's can't get 3 points, can't take them out. Audacity, though, as mentioned, are in a position here to not have to face Demise and give themselves a bit more of a favourable matchup against Kavana Gaming if they can make this next game work. But Kavana Gaming, as we discussed before, Burning Foxes as they used to be known, they are rather terrifying at the best of times. They've threatened many of the top teams that you can see on your screen right now. Funny enough, in fact, all three teams, I think, had a bit of a fixture against them. I wouldn't be looking at that and saying for Audacity this is an easy game. For Kavana, maybe you're saying, right, this is a real chance to cement ourselves in here and say this is our spot to hold. No one's taking it.
Yeah, it's certainly not going to be an easy game there for Audacity. I think it's definitely going to be sort of that last mountain climb that they have at the end of the season to at least try and scrape themselves into a more favorable position in the standings.
Yeah, and if this game has really got you reinvigorated and wanting to pop some heads yourself, but you don't fancy delving into ranked, you want something a little bit more competitive, why don't you head on over to our Open Cups and play in those? ESL.im/R6UK, that's on Tuesdays on both PC and Xbox One, so there's plenty of room for competition there. You might as well, what else are you doing? What else are we doing rather than playing those games over the course of these next 2 weeks?
Yeah, especially as everyone's locked in there. Yeah, 2 weeks, come on.
Try 2 months. It's longer than 2 months at this rate.
Well, moving on to greener pastures, of course, we do have more games coming up after the break. Up next is going to be Kavana Gaming, our confirmed 4th placement, facing off versus Audacity, that are currently the 6th seed. Any quick thoughts on that one before we head to a break?
I mean, you could almost mistake them for Team Secret looking at that logo. But yes, Kavana versus Audacity. Kavana, said, former Burning Foxes. They have threatened a lot of teams. This should be a comfortable win for them. But Audacity, who knows, could be a nice surprise in waiting.
Yeah, it'd be a welcome surprise if that happens. Just a nice way to end out the season. But yeah, expecting it to go to Kavana.
Well, we'll find out when we step into that matchup. For now, though, get yourselves ready, of course. The final game of the night is going to be coming up after the break. and welcome back to the Rainbow Six Siege Premiership here live from the wonderful home broadcast, not the ESL UK studios, unfortunately, where we are slotted in for our third and final matchup of the night, this time with the Kavana Iguanas facing off versus the audacious Audacity. Hopefully, should be a bit of a banger to round out the evening. Are you two excited for this one?
I feel like oh, nice one, Derek. I feel like I just both watched him pull a face at your stupid names for the team.
There was some kind of rebuttal, as well. but we didn't hear it.
Yeah, you know what I realised? Discord was on mute. That's exactly why. I said I was less enthused for these games after your statement, but yeah, sure.
Oh, yeah. God. A lot of anger. A lot of deep-seated hatred.
Production made me hate them even more by saying other voice software is available. I'm like, no, it's the only one I'm using. Please.
I have to agree with you there. I was, less enthused after Jackie's stupid pun. Can they be called puns? I don't even think they're puns.
Bad jokes.
But I don't think this is going to be as exciting as the last game, which was something. It was something.
It was interesting. Stave cast a word for not so interesting.
Yeah, very, very true. Let's start with the rosters then and start to chip our way through this one, of course, as we do have them up on screen now. Now, yesterday, Des, you were saying how Grizzly essentially was this mass burglar. He was coming in through people's windows. He was stealing their people up. It was all sorts of madness. Yeah,
pretty much. I mean, with Grizzly and going to be the two players that are coming into yesterday I mentioned. Special shout out to Anarchic though as well. He had a really good game yesterday on Zofia predominantly. Nice to see the members of the team stepping up alongside those two. On the other side, well, it's been a bit of a tragedy story for these boys, I think it's fair to say so far. So Tour and Separate C started the season out pretty well, but have definitely fallen down the ranks quite a lot as time has gone by. But looking at then players like Zumi who's come in for them, JR's been fantastic, and even IV's contributing and throwing into the mess as well. So really, it's those three players I'm looking for today to make a bit of a difference against Kavana Gaming. But like we said before the break, I think we have a pretty good idea about which way this game's going to go.
Yeah, I think Audacity have been this team which, at the start, they looked okay. They started to slip down. They've had their issues. And towards the end, it looks like there have been some things that they've made improvements on. Like, for example, Ivy was someone who started off really well. He dipped down in the middle of the season. He's looking like he's playing better now. Satua as well. So at the very least, they've been making very small improvements, but nowhere near to the level that they really need to be doing in order to catch up with the rest of, the other teams that are in the competition. Whereas Kavana have kind of been very consistent in what it is they do. Yes, they've not won every single game they've played, but they have made those sort of consistent improvements. And when you have those two players like Gorgona and Grizzly, who actually I did tweet earlier on saying they have the exact same KD across the entire season right now, the same KD, same number of kills, obviously the same number of deaths as well. They're just so consistently good for this team, and I think that's a big threat.
Yeah, it's definitely a statistic to look at. And obviously we do know both of them can be heavy impact fraggers on that side. But it does come down to the map choice as well, not only the individual skill of our players. Once they get into the servers, we do have the auto bans coming through. Where do we think this one's going to shape up to round us out tonight, guys?
I'd say club or consulate on the basis of when teams are a little bit uncertain, still trying to figure things out. The default maps you see a lot of teams going to is clubhouse, consulate, or coastline. Coastline's banned away, so I'm going to go with club or consulate.
Yeah, I mean, coming in, I thought that Clubhouse was maybe going to be where they would go purely because Audacity have drawn on Clubhouse. That's the best result that they've managed to achieve this season. And Kavana lost Clubhouse, but that was only to better teams. So I thought at the very least, Audacity might be trying to take Kavana there, and Kavana could feel confident going against them. They have played Consulate before, and they did really well on it. And I think that's something that Audacity need to be concerned about if that's where it ends up going.
Yeah.
Well, there we go.
Bank is just everyone's most hated. I swear it's the first ban in every single matchup. It's either that or Villa. Just neither of them are going to get sewn through at all.
Oh, well, lucky for them. It's not going to be around much longer. There you go. Consulate. You were right.
Yeah. So a bit more expected. Let's start to actually really get into the nitty-gritty of things then between these two sides. Who are you going for, and what are your keys to victories? Obviously, we do know Kavana now are guaranteed 4th in the overall standings, which could mean their backs really are against the aren't against the walls. They're allowed to play a little bit more open if they want to, potentially be a bit more outlandish.
Yeah, I think if you look at the history for Kavana, formerly known as Burning Foxes, they've had really good results across the season, just not quite ones that strictly turn into wins. They had a 7-5 against Crazy, they had a 7-4 against Fierce, for example, and then had the default win against Secret in, I think it was on day number 3. But in that game, they actually won 7-3 on Cafe. So against Secret then, it was, it's kind of a turning point for them that then correlated across next week where they beat Randy 7-4. And now we find ourselves kind of moving forwards where they lost to Demise 7-5. They've always been just clawing towards victory against these teams that are above them, but just never quite managing to complete it. But they're really starting to find their footing a little bit now with a win against Enclave yesterday. They're definitely in a good mindset for this one. I think we see a rough repeat of yesterday, 7-3 or 7-4 to Kavana.
Yeah, I think I would agree. Just looking back, as you say, they beat Enclave 7-4 on Consulate yesterday, and they also beat Randy 7-4 when they played against them on Consulate. So that kind of seems to be just the pattern. Audacity, not quite as good a team as either of those, so it could be a little bit more decisive. We could see a 7-2, 7-3, but I think it's going to be in that region somewhere. I don't think it's going to be a complete stomp. I don't think it's going to go anywhere near a tie, just somewhere nicely in the middle. But yeah, Kavana, they're going to win.
Well, let's find out what the viewers at home think, of course, as we do have our Twitter poll, which, if you haven't already, start voting over on ESL UK on Twitter, hashtag ESL Prem. But it is actually exactly the same. Split both sides. It's completely even.
7.6% going for the draw as well. I mean, the draw probably feels maybe. I'm very surprised that it's a perfect split like this. So you've already given this to Kavana, I'd imagined.
It's yeah, that's an interesting one, but I don't know. Yeah, clearly Audacity have fans, which is good, I guess, but I'm not really sure what the people who... Well, okay, I was going to say I'm not really sure what the people who voted for them were thinking, but then if they end up winning, I'm going to look like a complete idiot if I say that, so I won't go that far, but I think you're wrong.
Well, it all converges on this. Consulate to close us out for the final game of the night. Kavana Gaming face-off versus Audacity. Where's it going to go? Time will tell. I leave it with you for the final time this evening.
Final time this evening, final time in this play week, these play days, whatever we want to call it, the last few days have been, Gio.
Final time forever. Never talking to you again after this.
Thank God. And then playoffs on Saturday, obviously kickoff as well. Don't start this fight with me. Saturday for playoffs will be the other interesting one to observe how, once all the dust has settled, these teams are locked into their places, as they almost are now. Let's not forget the only movement that can happen as a result of this game is Audacity moving up into 5th place and forcing Randy's down into 6th.
Just waiting to see what the rest of these bans are looking like. Echo, it's looking really standard at the moment, to be perfectly honest. I was interested to see both of these teams really like to ban Thatcher, and so I was intrigued to see if that was gonna happen, but evidently not. Decided to go for the Cap and the Nomad instead, and Valkyrie as well. So a lot of that intel is going to be denied to both of these teams through these bans.
Instead, they're rather than using gadgets for intel, we're going to see it more come in the form of a mirror, potentially. Let's not forget, yesterday when we saw Fierce versus Randy's, the mirror was not banned away. There was actually a ban that came in towards Monty Maestro, and then, of course, the Oryx ban that we saw, and the Thermite. So a bit of a change today. I would expect we see the mirror get brought out for a couple of the sites, potentially. Mainly, especially only the downstairs, because you can use those mirror windows inside a bathroom on the ground floor, making it very, very tough to get anything done if you're one of the attackers, because, well, every single move is being watched. Or equally, you can go a little bit deeper on the downstairs defense and put a mirror window inside the small office and inside a cafe, and just use those to watch in towards what's going on around the garage door. Not going to be brought out in this round, mind you, though. Things are going to start off here on the ground floor. Inside the basement, I should say, garage and cafeteria. But that Mute Mozzie combo is being brought along.
Yeah, and I guess when you've banned out the operators that can help gather your intel, having that extra denial on top is going to make what you do have available to you even harder to utilize. Bringing the Jackal as well is IV. You kind of, when you can, you see him on this site used. Sometimes he used to be a little bit more popular. You kind of use him, you send him down the spiral stairs, and you can see where your operators are, see who it is you're playing. But I'm gonna actually keep my eye on Randy on the Vigil as well. an operator that we've seen a few times over the course of the season, be used on various different maps, but you sometimes see him just based on the positioning that you frequently see Vigil in. You sometimes see him find himself in, for example, a post-plant scenario and not be able to get back to where he needs to be and such things like that. And so you really need to be on the ball if you're playing on that Vigil.
Yeah, I'm never too sure how I feel about Vigil. I see him as quite a selfish operator in many ways, and this was inspired by a conversation that I had with Emerson, one of the coaches from the UK, where he was saying, I actually quite like Vigil. I think Vigil is really fun to play. I enjoy playing him myself, but he made a fair point of he is quite a selfish operator, that you are playing by yourself. You're not providing intel really to the rest of your team. You're just playing out there trying to find frags by yourself, and nothing that you do in terms of the terraforming you can do on the site with the impacts, you're more saving them for yourself for the rotations whilst you're playing away. There are also, no doubt, sometimes better things to play, but this is the situation we find ourselves in. It's just trying to cause chaos for the enemy side whilst they try and approach the site. And of course, being paired up with the Mute and the Mozzie, it's just even more of an intel blackout coming through for the attackers. Audacity have already managed to get themselves into the basement, with the opening up of that garage wall. Now they've got to worry about the roamers and where they're playing. You can see Randy playing here inside of Tellers. You can see where one of the rotations has come through as well from that impact nade. As it stands so far, they're ignoring him, and there's quite a strong push coming through on the top floor from Audacity right now, trying to see what they can do, but Randy's going to swing across the spiral and find himself a down onto Satua, but no kill.
Yeah, so it is looking like those roamers so far are getting value. That impact nade going to be bringing Satua down. And this is what they're going to have to be relying on, given that the Kaid wasn't able to do all that much to prevent the garage door from being opened. Now, just having a look at him trying to peek those angles to see what he can get on those attackers who'll be looking to move on in. And of course, one member of Audacity also moving down the yellow stairs. He's just got to be very careful as the ACOG on the TCSG is looking straight at him. C4 not going to be able to get anyone just yet, but Jackal is there waiting. Toyota does fall, and that puts this in a 4 versus 3 situation.
Well, 4 versus 3, but look at the health bars for Grizzly and Randy right now. Very, very low. So all it's going to take is a couple of bullets, and then we'll start losing members. Zumi finds one from upstairs onto Grizzly, evening things out at 3 and 3 for now. Down to the final 30 seconds, though. That clock is starting to run thin for the attackers to make their push happen. Right now, it's a lot of vertical control, and you can see the defenders sticking very far back. 2 inside a cafeteria, 1 inside a small office, and they can just play around these smokes if they want to be able to prevent this happening. However, there is only 1 smoke left, so my God, has it got to count.
Well, let's see if it can do it. There's IV going to be falling down by Randy. So right now it is looking very strong here for the defenders. Very unlikely that that diffuser is going to be planted. But Kovana, they do take it.
Almost holding the right angle there as well. That pressure of time, I think for the few more seconds, maybe you'd have seen it coming a little bit slower from Zumi at the end there and trying to scope out the room and see where the one standing member still was, or in this case, lying down member was. The other one, of course, was down, but not out. So out of action briefly. Still round number 1, going the side of Kovana, as you just saw. Audacity, though, not with a bad effort, I thought. Their roam clear at the very start on the top floor was quite effective. They moved as a team. And this is what I always like to see from teams that are still, air quotes, figuring things out and really trying to kind of build that cohesiveness up as a team, is pushing as a unit. They are doing that together. They are coordinating with each other. They did all the right moves there around getting the garage wall open, for example. Just the small things like the gunfights towards the latter end of the round really didn't go their way.
Well, moving to Archives and Tellers, which is not really very common to go for the second site here, but evidently Kovana are trying to throw Audacity somewhat off the scent, or at the very least take them to a site that they're going to be slightly less prepared for, as this is usually the off-site for most teams, and you actually very frequently don't see this site get touched at all. But of course, having the pulse on the board, once that's figured out, that's going to be a huge telling point as to where this team is going, where they're going to be situated. So they are going to be really anchoring down. That's why we see the castle. He'll be able to use those barricades, prevent a lot of those angles from being taken. Because when you have to split the team over 2 stories, you're going to have as much material support as you possibly can to help protect your players.
So much more than that with this site is the craziness that ensues, where you can have defenders playing downstairs. Normally you'll bring something like a pulse, as you can see going on right now. You have the information of who is repelling up towards admin, as well as those who are trying to push inside of the site itself. You can then potentially have people playing on the top floor to give you vertical pressure there, meaning for the attackers, if you enter on the ground floor, which can be quite common as you're seeing it through right now in towards lobby, you know you've got to look in both directions, both up and down, to try and find where the defenders are. It's definitely a weird site. I'm still always perplexed how so many teams choose to go here, because trying to plant in there is an absolute death trap if you haven't cleared out every single defender. So we'll see how this one plays out. Audacity right now choosing to start things off on the west side, completely ignoring a push in towards Visa. Their aim right now is more, it would seem, to get control of this side of the map, snuff out those that are playing above and below, and then push through for a potential plant.
And the other risk that you have to be very wary of is if the attackers are able to get that plant down, this is a notoriously difficult site to get that retake on. So you have to be really, really high fortitude here if you are one of the defenders. So far, Kovana are sitting on the man advantage, as Ivy was taken down earlier on in the round. And they're just waiting. Here comes that angle straight onto Sergio, so he's going to be falling down, but Gorgona was taken down at the same time, and having that pulse not available down to protect on the bottom floor is going to be a big issue.
Yeah, a bit of a trade coming through there. Almost perfectly a trade in exactly the same millisecond, it felt like, but not just quite. Just a few off turn. Otherwise, that first kill wouldn't have come through in the first place. A lot of rotations coming around now, where Grizzly has moved from playing upstairs down to the ground floor, back upstairs again, and you've still got one or two members just holding in dead here. I'm pretty sure he didn't know that was a knee sticking out then. That probably would have been quite a few points of damage coming across, but there's Grizzly, as I said, rotating downstairs, back up onto the top floor. Finds himself a kill up there, and this defensive strat that's come through is very much so relying on the fluidity of moving between sites and causing a bit of chaos, and almost forcing Audacity to attack down certain paths thanks to those castle walls. Round number 2 across to Kovana in quite convincing fashion.
It's looking pretty confident, pretty, I want to say leisurely. It doesn't look like they've had to exert themselves all that much. They've been winning out a lot of these fights fairly swiftly, fairly easily. So they're going to be going to lobby and press as their next site. And I'm just getting war flashbacks to the Tachanka that we saw there yesterday. Of course, that was neither of these two teams, so we won't be seeing that again. Instead, going to be seeing something slightly more standard. Your Maestro, your Legion, and then, of course, still having your Roma with the Jaeger.
Well, the site's now going into lobby and press. Again, one of the sites that requires a lot of vertical play to defend this one. I would expect to see a hold coming in upstairs inside of meeting, purely because you can open up a couple of holes inside there that look towards the main entryway in towards lobby. What I really like about this site normally is a Nomad to be brought along, because it forces a sort of... It forces the defenders to not be able to play the jump out game that so many like playing when it comes to a map like this. All that really comes down to then is a bunch of spawn peaks at windows. Would expect maybe we see something aggressive like that coming out of Rendy, playing that dock with the ACOG. And a number of times we've seen teams also just completely run their way in and try and repel into a window inside of like Antechamber, for example, and just try and cause absolute chaos. Forget about doorways. They were overrated anyway.
Yeah, it's not too uncommon to see, for example, a Sophia playing in the Antechamber, because you can just open up the floor using her breach charges. That's fairly common. I'm also kind of interested in the fact that Kovana obviously, well, yeah.
In this case,
she's
now
got her claymore this time.
That is jump out fear for you, because the Nomad's banned.
Yes, I mean, you've got to bring what you can, right? Because of course IQ also choosing to bring that claymore instead of bringing breach charges for herself. So you pretty much just got to use what you have available to you. But yeah, what I was going to say is sometimes you do see the Mozzie playing up on the top floor. Of course, there's not a Mozzie being brought this time. So they will really be relying on the Jaeger for that roaming prowess.
More so than that, down to the grenades as well. There is only the one on side, but of course you can deal with the gadgets coming out of Satua here, which just takes away more of that utility, of which there isn't really a whole lot. And that maybe could be the fear coming through for Audacity, that they don't really have that much to make it happen. Admittedly, this site doesn't really require a lot of utility. As long as you have some soft destruction, you're in a pretty good spot. But again, I worry that that's somewhat limited. Arguably, the Jackal is there with that secondary shotgun to be able to make that work out for them, assuming he doesn't get picked off early on. That is the big key thing, as we saw a couple of rounds ago. He did get picked off quite early. Wasn't the best outcome.
Just see those evil eyes being checked here. And Kovana really are kind of playing for that intel. They have the evil eyes. They also have the bulletproof camera on the side of the Legion instead of bringing the impact nades that you sometimes see. So they are trying to get hold of whatever information they can. Searchua is going to be the first to fall, and we see more smokes coming out. But so far, well, I was going to say so far, no other casualties, but Ivy is going to be joining his teammate.
You can see Moz is still here inside of Piano, very happily holding that window while his team have just picked off everyone. And they are trying to push in from yellow stairs right now. More of a rotation by the looks of it downstairs. Zumi here looking towards Spiral. Needs to be wary as there is a player playing at the top of these stairs and might find himself caught out if he's not careful. There we go. Wasn't watching at the wrong time. Does get himself picked off. That is Gorgona down now into a 2 versus 4. Skeleton key kill as well, by the way.
This will open things up a little bit more for Audacity to actually begin to move in, but of course their whereabouts will be known to the players of Kovana. Question is whether they're going to move in. Opening up that wall, the smoke's obviously going to deter them from doing much, and Anarchic is going to be falling in the process. Just got to come around the lobby desk to try and hold on to these angles, but that hatch is ever dangerous. So Pronzi finds himself falling, and that means Zumi will be the last one remaining, but it's not enough. He can't do all that much, and Kovana win their 3rd round in a row.
On defense as well. Consulate being one of those maps, generally when teams look at this will say, oh, attacker-sided. And we speak about this all the time, that just because a map is said to be, oh, it's attacker-sided or defender-sided, that is across a large number of games, across a large number of regions more often than not. There's still fair balance between maps, so much so that you can make defense work. And Kovana here is showing that the skill gap between these teams arguably is what's making the difference right now. 3-0, pretty dominant rounds overall, I think it's pretty fair to say. Except for maybe the first one where Zumi was in that 1 versus 2 with one of them being down on the other side, but just didn't have enough time to try and close that round out. Going into round number 4, though, I would start to worry now if I was Audacity, because you're about to go through the same rotation of sites again, and none of them look particularly promising again, except for that first one.
No, absolutely not. And a lot of the reason why it looked kind of promising was because they were able to get that garage door open so quickly. Now, Anarchic, he did switch off the Bandit back onto the Kaid. And before we saw him chilling out in security, where you often see a lot of those anchors, but it did mean that he wasn't able to get another one of the electric claws onto the garage in order to either trip off the thermite charge or prevent Audacity from coming in. So it could be that they're able to get that open quickly again, but this time they're not bringing a Thatcher.
It's interesting they're opting not to, but pushing onto the bottom floor, you can just opt to take over Piano instead most normally and just blow up the floor from there, remove the gadgets that are sat in the garage. That probably is going to be the intent, but the issue here is if you're very smart about the way that you're going to play, exactly, thank you very much, Alex, you can shoot it down from here. The thing is, you can put the electro claws in some really interesting spots. There's a couple of like grey boxes next to that wall inside of the garage, because if you put it underneath there, it electrifies the wall still, but it can't be shot out very comfortably from anywhere else. That one on the left, there isn't one under there, so no, they haven't done what I remember seeing Fabian do that time ago. Yeah, that is definitely easy for them to get if they can take control of Piano. So now the onus is on the defenders to hold Piano down. There's no one really holding it right now.
No, and I don't know, you kind of want to believe that maybe they'll try and stage some kind of an ambush or be expecting Piano to be taken. I mean, straight away, Jared is going to be going down, so that's not a great start here for Audacity, but Rendy will be taken as the trade. A lot of Audacity coming in from the east side of the map, so at the very least, Kovana know where they're going to be heading in from, but they are playing a very heavy anchor game here, and it could be that they have to wait a little bit until they get closer to the site to actually be able to do much.
The lack of an IQ is definitely going to slow them down a little bit here as well, because although you'd argue, well, there are no invisible gadget, there's no black eye cameras, what is there to be worried about? It's the fact that you need to find out where the pests are, you want to know where that electric claw is set up. These are all very minor little things, but they do stack up. The seconds do add up over time. So maybe that's a slight fear that you have here in losing that, whereas the Vigil being gone, like I mentioned earlier on, quite selfish. You're not going to be too fussed about losing him. You'll be very fussed about losing the Mozzie with him now being down, but the kill tray comes in. Grizzly looking out for his brother in Gorgona and finding a kill for himself before Ivy strikes back and brings down Grizzly.
It is, of course, all important to be able to get those trades. Down jumps the Jackal, just checking that it is safe for him to do so before moving on to Much. He's heading on through the antechamber, just clearing things out, ensuring everything is safe. There's not going to be an angle being opened up onto him from behind as he opens up the floor here. And this is where he'll be going for that all-important electric floor to allow the remaining members of his team to move in through the garage door.
It has taken them 2 minutes to get to this point because they invested quite a lot of time looking upstairs, though. So this might yet come back to bite them as this round progresses. Separacy now needs to be getting outside and getting himself behind and opening up that garage door, because as it stands with that closed up, this is a pretty safe space for the members of Kavana to be playing right now. And Arkick has gone down, mind you, so it's all down to Amos by himself. Ivy's going to push down and find a kill for free there.
Easy kill.
Now, Amos has got a lot of work to do, and he's playing on this smoke. 30 seconds to go, and with this wall reinforced, I was going to say he's in a comfortable spot. Now it being opened up, considerably less comfortable. Will find one kill. Shotgun out. Can find a second. Yes, he does. Ooh. Can he clutch this out for them and send this to 4-0? It's all down to him coming up against IV right now. The long-range gun definitely in his favor. He knows where he is. Surely the pings are going to start coming out. The default cam was still up as well. They know that he's going for this push. They know that time sensitive is going to be the nature of this. Here comes the spray down as well. Hits the shots, and the Moz finds those final 3 kills. What a clutch round from generally a pretty quiet player. That is when it counts the most.
Yeah, almost really showing up there. He was in a high-pressure scenario, knowing that a player was coming in through from outside of the garage, coming down the yellow stairs at the same time, and then also having that Jackal coming down too. Being able to deal with all of that just shows the kind of domination that Kavana are really showing here against Audacity. They're having such a strong game, and being able to clutch those situations out is not going to be instilling confidence in Audacity going forward into these next few rounds. Archives tell us once again that site that's regularly the offsite that worked out so well for them before, and we are returning once more.
Need to locate and defuse as many bombs as they can.
The clutch players like that are what you live for, I think, as a support player. This is a big game for Moz right now as well. Second in kills only to Rendy. Gorgona and Grizzly normally draw a lot of the attention, and Arkick after his performance yesterday, no doubt. But being the final man left alive and being able to clutch a 1 versus 3, that's when you know you are a massive, valuable asset to your team. So, huge round for Amos, huge round for Kavana all over all. 4-0 now, so we go back to Tellers and Archives once again. We saw this played out last time around where there was quite a split. In particular, we saw Grizzly going up and down floors like an absolute madman, finding kills as he went. So, bit of an information blackout once again coming through with the Mozzie and the Mute. Have that pulse playing downstairs as we always see inside of Archives itself to provide the intel of who is trying to head in towards Archives or who might be trying to push in towards Visa itself. And as we saw before, the castle blocking things off, just making it so the attackers either have to burn utility, so looking towards namely the Zofia here to get rid of those walls, or they have to take alternative routes. They don't really have enough utility on side to comfortably deal with them, I don't think. So they're a bit left now trying to play into the game that Kavana want them to play, which is by forcing them down particular routes.
Yeah, I want to really be looking out for particularly Gorgona here. He got picked off slightly prematurely before, and I'd like to see that not happen again. Sertua is going to be the first premature kill of this round, not even getting into the building before he was taken down by a member of Kavana. And now we're seeing Audacity start to move in through the basement, and that just makes them such easy prey to be picked off here. Now, I said I was looking out for Gorgona. He was able to get that shot onto IV, and now pulling out the cardiac sensor while his comrade in Omos is able to hold the angle.
Shotgun. Man with a shotgun. Can't hurt him. They know they're in a comfortable spot here to make this one work out as well. Going to try and toss one in. Grenade comes out as well. Might not find that kill. He will indeed get away without even so much as a scratch. But they've got these angles held down. Zumi finds a kill on towards Rendy, and suddenly things are going across to Audacity. 2 kills rain their way. Make that 3. Things are going the way when it really shouldn't be right now. Now it's all down to Gorgona by himself playing on the pulse. What magic can he do? He's going to try and take on a 2 versus 1 there. However, one's much closer. Will not see him coming. And Audacity will take round number 5 after a flurry of kills, rapidly swinging in their favor.
Yeah, having to play a slightly more long-range shot down a hallway into 2 people with an not really the ideal situation to be in. I said I wanted Gorgona to last a little bit longer. He lasted all the way to the end, but that certainly was definitely an off round there for Kavana. The fact that they funneled in the team through a certain route, in through the west side of the map, and they knew exactly where they were coming from, and they still weren't winning out those very, very key fights, that's slightly disappointing there for the team. Obviously, they don't have to be concerned right now insofar as the scoreline goes, but it's still not what they were looking for. That should have been a very easy win for them.
I think they got very bought in to try and hold them inside a cafeteria and saying, if we can hold them at this door, if we can pin them down at the top of Spiral, this round is ours. They can't push into sight on the ground floor. I think the whole intent was to basically ignore everything going on upstairs for Audacity and just push through the downstairs. The one thing Kavana certainly didn't account for particularly well was the flanks that came through, the additional angles, the points of push that were coming in from Audacity, and got themselves caught out a little bit, losing a couple of members. And it's very, very easy in these kind of situations where once you lose one or two members that are holding critical angles, for everything else to fall like a stack of dominoes, because you can't cover all the right angles. The attackers will push you from two angles at once. You can't watch both, obviously, and you're pretty much guaranteed to die in that situation. So it was a good round for Audacity. It's their first one on the board. Let's see if they can end the half out at 4-2. It's still not ideal here. 3-3 really is what you're aiming for as an attacker, but at 2-4, in the situation they're in, you'll take it.
5 seconds remaining.
Well, they're playing, if I remember correctly, the exact same lineup that they were when they came to this site before. And it went pretty decisively when they were playing on lobby B4. As we mentioned previously, it's a big site here for vertical play. That's why we're seeing a lot of presence on the upstairs. Just right now seeing Rendy try and open up some of those peak holes so that he has a solid line of sight should any members of Audacity head on up through that top floor. Just very quickly going through these cameras here. I mean, if you're going to search for intel, you might as well do it in 2 times the speed. And Gorgona's just going to be getting rid of those drones. It's all about holding these angles at the beginning here. Start to see some of those, or hear rather, some of those guns going off in the distance. They just want to be knuckling down, anchoring down, and holding this top floor as solidly as they can for as long as they can.
Exactly that. They're trying to waste time by playing up here right now, wasting what drones they can, because for Audacity, you don't want to push in blind here. You need to have a drone leading you, and if you're going to try and push out where these defenders might be on this top floor, every single time you do and you lose a drone for it, that's going to hurt you the longer this round goes by. And Grizzly with a wonder shot there, and Tazumi will shut him down nice and early. You can see here, there's 2 of them playing on the upstairs right now, just trying to waste time as best they can inside a meeting. And so far, it's been a massive success. They've wasted 90 seconds so far and found a kill. They could drop away from this and be very happy with the outcome they have achieved. That spray's going to come through once again, not quite finding the kill, but now it's all coming up Kavana. The Empire strikes back after the last round, potentially looking to be 5-1, and it's all down to Jo to by himself to try and find this kill. Isn't going to do so. It's a flawless round coming through for Kavana to end out a brilliant first half.
Yeah, they knew where the enemy was going to be coming in from. Gorgona did take a lot of damage in that altercation he found himself in, but ultimately it was able to work out. And yes, you'd think Thatcher maybe with that slightly longer range be able to take that shot, but one thing that Kavana have proven, especially when we're looking at the players like Grizzly and Gorgona, is that they know how to shoot. Now things are switching around, 5-1 at the half, and we're going to be heading up to console and meeting for the first time on this map today. I was thinking it was a little slightly unusual that a defensive team didn't go there at all, but this is, for a lot of teams, the premier site, and I think potentially Kavana were expecting Audacity to be the most prepared for this site. So Audacity, they're going to be going there for their first defense, and we will see just how prepared Kavana are for their own attack onto it.
The kind of state review, looking at the kills across the board so far. Definitely looking at Rendy and almost being 2 of the big players so far for Kavana. Seeing Grizzly step up and, of course, do what he did yesterday, really delivering a bunch of kills. But I do like how some attention is being given now to the usually quieter members of this side. As said before, it's normally Grizzly and Gorgona we give a lot of attention to Anarchic after yesterday, so it's good to see those guys getting on the board and making things happen as well. On the other side, it's once again only Zumi really so far that is stepping up. Jayasta normally has been one of the players alongside him that's dropping the frags, but in this instance, they are a little bit absent, it feels, in this fixture. Let's hope that they can change over now, being on defense. Again, some concern comes in that with this being a not so much attacker-sided map, there are the options for runouts. Things like Nomad being away is going to really hurt the attackers in this instance. But since it's such a thin map, there's not really a lot of opportunity for defenders to make much happen as long as you've got your angles covered as the attackers, whether that's with claymores, whether it's through having one player watching a given angle, such as the stairway. Otherwise, everything's pretty safe for you to do as the attacker here due to how thin the map is.
Yeah, it is certainly one of those maps where it can be easy to be funneled into certain directions, Actually, I really like the placement of that bulletproof camera there so that you can see exactly who's coming in through the window without having to relinquish your position so much. Rendy has left the game, so that could definitely be an advantage there for Audacity. Likely just DC'd there, but still the game must go on, and that's going to be a huge loss for them, starting off with that man advantage. They're going to be looking to take advantage of that. And actually interesting how Kavana, they're all situated here. Well, a lot on the north side of the map. We do have a Narkic down here, just looking into... Well, I say looking into, he's sending in his drone. It's going to be shot down by Searchwell, but now he knows that somebody is in there. So Bronzy will be falling, so we are at a 4 versus 4.
They are, and even with the Hibana being brought along here, this is the site where normally you'll see her brought along, because if you're pushing from copy, it's very common to use the Hibana to open up the wall that pushes in towards meeting itself. But here, a slightly alternative use, as you saw, it's being used to open up that safety that's being provided by the wall inside a bathroom looking in towards Baguette or in towards the southwest site. So as things stand, being made for good use from the angle that you can see here, a lot of coverage being provided by Grizzly as well, now that those walls have been opened up. Out comes the EE1D, no one yet found out by it, mind you, but it does give a little bit of peacetime here for Kavana to start getting themselves inside the building, still in a 4 versus 3.
Well, down goes Zumi straight away, and that was the player who you called out on the side of Audacity as showing up the most. So much of an aggression going on here. 3 different people being caught out up here at the top of yellow stairs, and it looks like there's just going to be blood splattered everywhere as the fights draw out. And Audacity, with Ivy getting a 2k at the end there, will win out that round, forcing further rounds to at least a round 9.
Yeah, 4k I think for Ivy in that round as well, only having the ace denied, unofficial ace, but the official ace being denied by the fact that Rendy did disconnect. But we'll give it to him anyway. Good job, buddy. Going into this round then, 5-2, round number 8 on the way. I think, given Rendy's disconnect there, even with how things played out, it was still a pretty dominant round overall by Audacity. I did mention that once you lose a key player, it can really hurt because you don't have the capability, especially if someone like a Buck on a map where there is a lot of soft flooring, it can come back to bite you. So let's hope it doesn't have a repeat of that this time round. We're going back downstairs, though, into cafeteria and garage. And I would have expected to see a Mute Mozzie being brought along, but nope, it's just a Mozzie, as Kaid is being brought instead. Probably similar to what we saw in the first half, electrification going to be deployed above the garage wall to make sure it's not so easy to open, and the push will have to come in towards Piano if they're going to be dealing with that one. I say that, I've just noticed they've got a Thatcher as well. So either or, take your pick. No thermite, though.
No thermite.
Interesting. Okay.
Going to be going for the Maverick instead, which, okay, you can open up the garage wall, but then you're really at risk of being peeked out through that as well.
It just feels weird why you would bring both the Maverick and the Thatcher in this case. Like, yes, Thatcher is good for more than just walls. You can deal with the gadgets that you're going to see deployed down, like the Mozzie, for example, like the cameras deployed by Jayata. All that kind of stuff too. I was kind of like, well, surely you just bring a Zofia in that case to deal with the cameras and you're perfectly happy with just the Maverick. But hey, I ain't as good as these guys. I'll leave it to them.
Whatever floats your boat. What I was going to say is bringing the Mozzie does mean that you can have that presence up here on the top floor, as you see, just opening up the floor here in console. And that means that he can look down into these angles. And if anyone does decide that they are going to start playing in through Piano, you have that there. You have that threat, that pressure coming in from above you that makes it all that harder. But Maverick is going to start opening up these walls. And with Saponsi nearby, there is the risk of not only having that C4 thrown in through, looks like that is what he is going to be going for if he can get the right angle, but of course just being shot.
Yeah, kind of surprised that they've opened this up now. I think the main aim there being so they can get a lot of these throwables through. Now they're going for a second one as well. That gets stuck and he gets sprayed through as well. That was actually beautiful teamwork coming out there where the coordination came through. Almost starting to get the hole open and going a little bit further back, being there with the watchful eye on that rifle, just making sure they could catch it out. Really good stuff coming through at the start of that round for Kavana.
Yeah, getting really good timing there, adding that pressure that really forced the Kaid into making that decision. It went wrong, and that's a very, very quick removal of a player off the map. Grizzly's also going to be removed, so one of the key players here for Kavana as well. And so far, even though having some proactivity there from the Maverick at the start. It looks like things are going to calm down a bit. We are over halfway into the round, and the vast majority of these players are not in the building. So they are going to have to get somewhat of a move on because, you know, we've got Ivy up here on the top floor. He's going to need clearing out. Zumi's just below him. He's going to need clearing out. You've got to have enough time to deal with all these players who are in your way as you start to work towards the site.
I'd say it's all gone very quiet for a brief second, and then Gorgona springs onto screen and finds himself a triple kill in this round. Beautiful stuff bringing down Zumi, and Satua so far almost gets a 4K, but Ivy, just like in the last round, is saying, you know what, you will not eclipse my performance. Triple kill for him so far. What a couple of rounds he has had to start bringing his team back into this one. Can he secure a next one? Well, this is a tough one now because he's in a 1 versus 2 on just a slither of HP, but if anyone can do it given recent performance, it is most definitely him. Down yellow stairs now, looking in towards garage. No idea where the other 2 members that are left alive are right now. The plant is going down. They know exactly where he is, and that spray comes through. Going to push back in once again, but an Arctic finds that crucial shot to bring him down, and Kavana move themselves into match point.
Yeah, he tried to go for just the aggression at the end there. He knew that he had to run out and at least try. I think he was probably very aware that was highly unlikely to go in his favor, but at the very least, Audacity have another round here to try and push things on forward. Going to be going back to Cafeteria and Garage, so they've decided it's not all over for them yet on this point. And the Maverick is going to be brought out again. So the question is whether or not Audacity are going to be prepared for what Kovana decided to do with the Maverick last time. Maybe they're going to reposition Sapronsi to be elsewhere to make him less vulnerable, and so that you then have that C4 or that TCSG available to you later on in the round. You have those stronger angles that can be held from Cafeteria or Security, wherever you may decide to position the Kaid later on. And that's going to be what I'm looking out for, I think, is whether or not they make those same mistakes.
Those long angles are so key, and it's why I mentioned earlier on we saw that the mirror wasn't banned. It was like, well, surely mirror is an option you're looking towards here, because she gives a lot of value in that regard, where you can, of course, see who's pushing in. You can see who's holding what angle. It's a simple step to the side, and you have soft wall to be able to spray through. So that is not the option that they've gone for, as you can quite clearly see. But on the other side, we're seeing should we say a mirror light here in the form of Blackbeard coming in. I remember back in the day when Blackbird's shield was, you know, a chunky shield. Not anymore. It's now 50 HP. It doesn't really block too much, but it's still the fact that that one shot could be enough when you're someone like Grizzly, who's landing quite a few shots so far in this game.
Yeah, I mean, this is one of those games where whatever extra protection you can have is definitely going to go a long way. It's certainly going to be useful for you. But Grizzly was the first to be picked off the side of Kovana in the last round, so if that ends up happening again, it could be all for naught. Just going to be sending in some of those drones. It's sort of amazing that it hasn't been shot out yet, so they know exactly where that Evil Eye is, as well as all these other members taking up positions down here in the basement. And Maverick's just going to get on going on the garage door very quickly, very swiftly. And as I said, they've decided not to have the Kaid right next to the door. He's not going to be going for that same attempt that happened last time. They're just going to allow the team to start opening things up and deal with it in a slightly different way.
I am... Oh, wow. That was bad. That was really bad. Threw his drone straight into the electrified wall, and it was gone. Now, this I didn't know about. I didn't realize that... In fact, that makes sense. Never mind. Ignore me. I was like, I thought they were managing to knock a square out there without even burning out the right side of the wall, but I realized it's the same thing as before. It's just not destroying the full wall because it's quite high up. So a bit of a variation of what we've seen previously, and arguably a lot safer as well, because you aren't being exposed as you're opening that up unless someone has got a significant height advantage over you.
Well, now we can get going.
Bomb has been located.
Oh, finally found bomb A. It's always nice to see. And this, here we see, you see the Kaid, he's playing a little bit further back, and he's going to apply a pressure here onto the garage door that's going to make it a lot harder for Kovana to move in. That said, they do have 3 people out, throwing in both the stun and the frag. That adds pressure in return. And Gorgona is going to be going down, that very key Ash no longer there available. But with Ivy and Satua following, things are looking a little bit more dire for Audacity, especially as Sapronsi is sitting here very low health. Now he's got to be aware of this drone as well as the members of the opposing team moving on in. Anarchic does end up falling. Can he finish off this kill? Yes, he can. And there's so much pressure remaining here on this Kaid.
Sumi now the last man left alive, but even he gets caught out on that one, and a very dominating performance from Kavana. What we expected at the start of this fixture has come to light, and that will be them at least securing their spot in where they sit in the table. Audacity will not have the chance to climb into 5th, which means they will be facing off against a pretty tough opponent in Demise in the playoffs.
Yes. Yeah, it's going to be quite hard for them. They haven't been able to prove themselves all that much throughout the course of the regular season. It happens. You know, you've always got to have someone who comes last, as kind of cruel as that may sound. The only thing that they can hope for now is just improvement. Watch some VODs. Go and scrim more. Go and find out what your flaws are, because that's really what they need to be working on, because they're going to be coming up against some Titans.
Yeah, and that is it. That's our final game of the evening, and of course of the regular season, now wrapped up with a 7-2 finish. A pretty one-sided affair full of some very exciting rounds, though. The clutches, the triple kills, it was all sprinkled in to at least give us an exciting game. But what were your favourite moments?
Favorite moments, not really in particular, that kind of sprung out. Like you say, there were quite a few multi-kills that kind of popped in that was like, oh, that's a nice surprising moment for them. I do like how there were a couple of rounds that Audacity did show the reason why we look up to them as a team that can do magical things. Ivy especially had a couple of really good rounds with the 4K and the 3K following each other. The problem they had in this fixture really came down to consistency, I think, was the biggest issue for them. But there were some individual moments that did shine for them. Sadly, Kavana shone far brighter in this game, actually. And as I mentioned earlier on, I'm really glad to see players like Rendy and Amos getting their chance in the spotlight too, really stepping up for their team and winning crucial rounds for them. Because normally it's the other players that we're speaking about. And it's nice to see them becoming a more balanced team. Hopefully they can keep that going into the playoffs and deliver results against some of these bigger teams that historically they've come close against, but just haven't quite managed to defeat.
I think this is the really key thing for Kavana is, you know, we didn't have high expectations for them at the beginning of the season. We didn't know loads about them. And then they started to show some promise. And now they're starting to show some consistency. And that's the important thing. And so being able to highlight these other players who aren't just the fraggers on the team, that's a really great thing to be able to say. Now, of course, yes, there's promise being shown on Audacity as well. You mentioned IV. That round on round 5 on the Archives Tellers when Audacity were actually able to clutch that one out. That was a huge round for them. We just need to be seeing that more and more consistently.
Yeah, consistency is key, but clutches also help. And as you touched on, Des, Omoz with probably one of the most impactful rounds out of the game, as he was just able to clutch it back piece by piece. That clutch was absolutely fantastic to witness, and it is good to see the entire roster really bubbling up to a boil. And they have been able to walk away as the victors in this one. Obviously, quite an impactful win for them to take. It doesn't affect things too much, as we knew basically what the standings were going to be going into this, but it's still a good win to have to give you that extra confidence going into finals, I'd imagine.
I think it definitely does. As I said earlier on, you could be a little bit disheartened by results against other teams, I think, knowing you took 5 rounds against Crazy, for example. You had the 4 against Fierce, the 5 against Demise. These guys can compete and do the tango with the big boys in this competition. So I think it's very, very tough to want to write them off given where they are right now. They come up against Randy's in their game. So in my mind, coming up against Randy's, they should be taking that fixture, which then puts them into a spot to face off against some tough teams, potentially coming into things a little bit later on, depending entirely on the result of Demise against Audacity. Assuming Demise take that, though, Kavana have got to face off against Crazy. That's not going to be a fun fixture for them.
I mean, it's one of those things where it's like, whoever it is that ends up doing well in the playoffs, they're going to come up against Crazy. It's one of those things, it's just unavoidable at this point because they are so good. So that build-up, you hope, can provide some insight and improvement, or at least points on which to improve for the team, to the point where they can actually get to a place where they feel comfortable going up against Crazy, because it's going to happen. If you do well enough, it's going to happen.
Yeah, it's only going to get harder from here on out, right?
Yeah. Yeah, no, definitely.
Well, let's see who was the hottest player, of course. Who are your picks at the moment, guys? Who are you leaning towards as obviously the most impact, as these are the ones we've chosen. Omar's for what was an incredible clutch, Grizzly, of course, the Window Maniac, and IV. Let us know over on Twitter who you believe deserves to take the crown from this one. You can also tweet at us with hashtag ESL Prem if there's anything you'd like us to know, or your favourite moments from that match. Do you agree with these picks, guys?
I think they're all fair picks. I mean, not to take a dump on his performance, fair play to you, IV, but there were probably 2 rounds in there that he did really well. The rest of them, relatively quiet. That would be my only real complaint, I guess. But again, I mentioned Armaz, I mentioned Rendy, I mentioned Grizzly. They all had pretty good games, to be fair. So I can't fault those 2.
I think I feel the same. You know, I think the reason for bringing up IV in that, obviously you don't want them all to just be in the same team, but I think the fact that IV kind of had this story throughout the season where he came as the experienced player for the team, he had some quiet days, and now he's been able to pick back up because he was doing fairly well yesterday as well. And so even though comparatively, when you look at him compared to some of those players from Kovana, he maybe didn't do as good, for his team and the value that the team got out of him, yeah, I would say he was pretty valuable.
Well, talking of Destitute dumps, let's move on and dump out the overall results from today so we can see where everything is now situated, obviously after the day. If you have missed any of the games, here are how things have shaped up. Obviously, a 6-6 draw to kick us off with Fierce versus Demise, which was an incredibly tight matchup to open us. It was a 7-2 win for Crazy, and then finally another 7-2 at Kovana Gaming that have just beaten out over Audacity Esports. Is this what we expected, or any unknown quantities that have been sprinkled in, Des?
I think the last 2 games went exactly as we would have expected. Looking at the scoreline between Fierce and Demise, though, that's probably the one that could have gone either way. 7-5 wouldn't have surprised me going either way with things, but hey, this is how things boiled down. A draw, I think, is pretty fair for how both teams played. Definitely picked the right match to watch, because I'll go back and watch that one again. It was really thoroughly quite entertaining.
Yeah, I think, you know, we came in saying that Fierce and Demise, they were going to be the sort of closest matchup teams. We didn't expect it to be a draw, but the fact that it was a draw is probably actually not that surprising in hindsight. And yeah, the other 2, we expected them to be a lot more dominating from those winning teams. So I'd say I'm entirely unsurprised. And I think the first match was also the most fun to watch and the one that was the most worth rewatching.
Oh, absolutely. It was definitely a good spectacle. Now we have the standings as well. This is the final draft. These are where the teams will be going forward. The seeds are 100% confirmed from this point forward. So obviously we do have Crazy and Fierce that are already moving on into the LAN. And then our playoff teams that will be facing off being Demise, Kovana Gaming, Randy's, and Audacity.
Yeah, I think it shaped up pretty fairly. This is probably the kind of lineup I mentioned at the start of the show. You could maybe flick Demise, Kovana, and Randy's around a little bit, and it wouldn't be too surprising either. But I think the top 2 and the top and the bottom 2, I think, have come as no surprise to anyone here. It's what was expected coming in, but it does shape us up for some potentially really interesting fixtures there in the playoffs. Kind of a shame that we don't get to see Kovana coming up against Demise, because that would be a really interesting one to re-experience again as well, given it ended 7-5 last time.
Yeah, I mean, I totally agree. I think Demise are going to actually be the team to watch in terms of how much of a foil they play in the playoffs and how much of a threat that they can be to those top 2 teams moving up. But yeah, I think Demise Kovana, they would be fun to see. And I think those bottom 2 teams, Audacity and Randy's, I mean, Randy's are so hard to predict even what's going to happen after what we saw today. Are they going to take it seriously? Are they not? Who knows?
And up on screen as well, obviously, you can see our actual playoff fixtures that we have. Bear in mind, if you do want to join us for this, if you come in at 2:45, that's when we'll have our pre-show, where we'll be buttering your metaphorical bagel of the palate to get you ready for the game. And then at 3 p.m, we'll be taking our first bite out of this breakfast buffet that is Demise versus Audacity. Of course, Kovana Gaming then facing off versus Randy. So a whole lot to witness. That is going to be on the 21st. So keep it locked for that, and definitely come and watch our playoffs. Des, it's going to be a banging affair, isn't it?
I think looking at those fixtures straight away, I'm seeing 2-2-0s, but that doesn't mean to say the games might not be interested in themselves, because both teams are now, well, all 4 teams, now have a better time to prep for each other. So I think looking at the playoffs alone, that could be the one that is probably more dominant than what we're looking at for the finals themselves. Still, Kovana versus Randy's is probably the one I'm looking at there and saying that's where there's the greatest potential for an upset. Kovana need to make sure they are prepared for that. And if they play like they did today, I think they'll be just fine.
Yeah, I think Demise are going to be in a kind of beneficial position here where they should be able to get a comfortable win onto Audacity without having to give too much away to other teams who they will potentially be facing later on in the playoff stages. Whereas Kavana likely won't have such a luxury. I think Randy's, if they want to, if they suddenly decide that they're going to start, actually taking it seriously and start being real about what it is they want to achieve, they probably could get themselves to a point where they can at the very least be a problem for Kavana and maybe push it to a 2-1. I think Kavana will win, and so I think they're in much less that beneficial position where they can relax a bit more.
Yeah, and that's what we're actually going to be cracking into the best of threes as well. So obviously sustainability is also going to be another aspect that will come out. How long can they keep themselves alive? Will fatigue kick in? Obviously a lot more room for error there over the course of the 3 maps. That is everything for today, though. Of course, if you still want your fix of Rainbow Six, you can get involved with our Open Cups. That's every Tuesday over on esl.im/R6UK. You can play on both PC and Xbox One. So if you want to compete, you might as well. In terms of tonight's broadcast, though, everything has been wrapped up in a nice little neat package. What are your key standout moments, not only from the season but from tonight as well? As it's been a good run, isn't it? We're now obviously at playoffs. We've got it done in quite record time.
Yeah, no, I think I agree from tonight, especially that first game. Like I say, is one definitely worth watching back if you are looking for them to kind of wet the palate a little bit ahead of Saturday's games. Otherwise, I think you can look across any of the kind of big teams clashing across the season. Fierce, Demise, and Crazy. I think all of their games generally were quite entertaining to watch the teams deliver in that way. If you're up for a bit of a clown fiesta, second game tonight is definitely one to go for. Otherwise, I guarantee you there's a lot more to come in the finals.
Yeah, I was going to say, I think the thing that stands out to me the most is the fact that I can still hear all the gunshots in my head from that Coastline game today where they were just opening up every single soft surface. But other than that, I think that one of the best things about this season that we have seen is a lot of fresh talent, or talent that we didn't necessarily see as much in previous seasons. And that's a really exciting thing to see, is the development of that, how these new players and old players alike are going to be performing as we move into the playoffs and eventually get to the finals. I think that's the most exciting thing about it, is this constant development of the UK Siege scene.
Yeah, it's been absolutely amazing. So we thank every one of you for tuning in, obviously, over the course of the regular season. Please come back for playoffs, where things are only going to get better as we make our way towards our finals. From us today, though, we are done and dusted. And none of this would have been possible, of course, without the magnificent AOC Gaming that have helped us provide this hodgepodge of a stream that has been bloody brilliant, I must say. We are done for the day, though. So with that, I do just say have a fantastic weekend, and we will see you with more Rainbow Six Premiership in the very near future.